Today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we are going to talk about a few different things. A few. Of course, today is open mic night, so if you wish to join both our Discord and our Twitch chat, then of course the links will be in the description of the video, as well as I will link it into the Discord, into the Twitch chat in just 1 second.
Yeah. Gonna get real twitchy.
Yeah, real twitchy. So if you wish to have your opinions heard, then tonight is the night. As Disa Kong says, let's get dangerous.
Let's get dangerous.
Okay, there was a little too much added an emphasis on that, so...
Have you seen the show? Have you seen the show?
I don't even know what show you're talking about.
Darkwing Duck!
Oh my goodness, that's been so long since Dark...
That was the best.
Okay, Darkwing Duck. Let's look this up. When was Darkwing Duck?
Oh, the 90s.
Like, I know that I watched a couple of episodes, but it was like, I was too young. It came out when I was born. It ran from 1991 to 1992. So by the time it left the air, I was not even 1 year old yet.
But it was constantly replayed on Disney.
It was, yes.
Disney Channel.
I watched some reruns of it, but I wasn't there to like really enjoy the experience of Darkwing Duck as it came out.
There are shows that came out in the 80s that I started to see when I arrived in Canada in the 90s. I'm like, so that doesn't matter when it came out. Like most of the time you see the show long after, like Looney Tunes came out way before any of us were born. But we've all seen Looney Tunes.
Yes.
Right?
Looney Tunes is a little more prominent than Darkwing Duck.
Oh, I don't know, Darkwing Duck.
Come on, Darkwing Duck. Look, it seems like a good show, but it doesn't have the same like cultural significance as Looney Tunes.
Darkwing Duck is basically an iconic tongue-in-cheek like parody of like Batman, but it's so funny because of how ridiculous it is. I just smiled just thinking about it. It's a good show. Anyways, go on.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today. In This Week in Satire, we're going to address the idea that Trudeau tries to distract from the Nazi in the House of Parliament by growing a suspicious-looking mustache.
I'm telling you, the guy is a costume master. He's the master of disguise.
And he did wear a Nazi uniform a few years ago.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? In the rant of the week, we are going to talk about the crumbling system of justice and why, if people do not trust not only the police, but the justice system itself, then we are bound for more lawlessness and more chaos. In the Shrewd Check, we're talking about I don't even know what's this called. It is a HR training video, which apparently gets pretty darn racist.
Oh, it gets that. It's disturbing and how terrible it is.
It's going to be a live react for me, so we're going to see how it goes. Ooh, Beard of Prey has joined the chat, so hello,
The beard
Chadikins.
is here. The beard is arrived.
Actually, you're not Chadikins. Chad is Chadikins. You are Chadwick.
You're Chadwick.
You're special.
Yes.
I just go by the beard. The beard is
and then finally, in the weekly exposure, we're going to watch a video or two about a proclaimed trans student just beating the crap out of young girls.
I mean,
because inclusion and diversity always comes out on top, apparently.
I mean, trans privilege is a real thing.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
They are the tippy top of the woke victimhood pyramid.
If I wear a dress and I beat up like a whole bunch of girls, I'll be called a hero. I mean, that's a trans advantage.
Well, if you wear a dress and beat up a bunch of girls, you'll be a predator. If you wear a dress and call yourself a woman, then you're a hero.
There you go. That's all. You got to get that.
You got to have the one extra
all the
step.
ducks in a row. Got to get all the ducks in a row.
All the ducks. Okay, intro time. Okay, so we are back, and of course this is an open mic night, and currently we have two guests in our Discord server. We have Conquerworm, who is a frequent guest on our Twitch stream, and of course a former Canadian. And we have Beard of Prey, who was at one point Danny's roommate.
That's right. Well, we're still co-workers, though.
No longer.
We're
still co-workers. We work together still.
Yes, that is true. You're still co-workers.
Yeah.
So partners in crime.
Partners in crime. So, just a bit of a thing that people can do, of course, if they want to have more engagement and more interesting conversations. Then everybody who's watching the video, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe, because that's just kind of the common theme of everybody who does a show online. But of course, if we share in the middle of the live stream, then we can get some interesting guests on, and we don't become an echo chamber, which is, of course, something we want to avoid.
Just for a good idea, you could come up with like a unique way of saying it. Like, like instead of saying smash that like button, you could be like annihilate that like button. Like share the show with your friends. Be like, come, I don't know what you would say. Toss around this show with your many, many paramours, or what would be a good word? What's a paramour again? I forget what that is.
Paramour is like a lover.
Oh, really? Okay, I got that wrong word. Wrong word.
Toss it around with your paramours, and I'm like, don't say that, please.
I was like, wrong word. I should have looked it up in the dictionary first. I was like, I heard that word somewhere. What was that word again?
Oh my gosh, Danny's like, no.
I mean, don't share with your paramours. Don't let your significant other know that you have paramours. It's very important.
Whoa. Yeah. We went from like lighthearted, like, oh, I said the wrong words, to sharing, to don't let your partner know that you're cheating on them.
Keep the secrets in, son. Not share the secrets.
Share it with your girlfriend, your wife, and your best friend. Just not all three at once.
Don't forget your concubine. Concubine, did it in there too.
That's true. That's true.
Very true. Gotta include the concubines.
I mean, they are like they are lesser wives who just like less privileges than the real wives.
But they are still part of the family, so it's fine.
Yeah. It's a family-friendly show.
We try so hard. But some people.
Poor Steven. Let's go. Why don't we go to something more wholesome, like alligators?
Alligators. So, first story, just kind of some early levity. Danny corrected me a while back on that one. So, Phillies turn away emotional support alligator before a game against Pirates. Wally, the five. What?
You let Danny correct you on language?
There was one time.
Shame on you.
It is true.
I know.
Hey, I know my language, boy.
Yeah.
You know Spanish.
Yeah. So anyways, the Phillies were hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates Wednesday night in the second game of their final home series of the regular season, and fans could enjoy the game without too much pressure, as Philly has already clinched a wild card spot. One fan was not in attendance, Wally the emotional support alligator.
Yeah.
Wally's owner... Chadwick is talking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You have to mute yourself, boy.
So, Wally's owner, Joseph Henney of Jonestown, Pennsylvania, brought him to the game to watch the Phillies and Pirates, but the two were denied access because why would you allow an alligator? And they're like, oh, it's like, I get it. Like the video, it's just like, oh, it's an alligator that you can cuddle up to. And I'm like,
that's right.
Still no.
I mean, like they should have learned their lesson after somebody brought the gigantic boa constrictor to the game, and they're like, no, not the boa constrictor. Yeah, play the video though; it's actually pretty adorable. It kind of gives a little bit of the okay. This is not that crazy.
I see a bunch of pictures. Okay,
no, it's a video. Very, very top. Oh, look at that thing. Taking it for a walk.
Adorable.
Emotional support animal. Sitting on the lap. Hello.
A potential foodway.
That's right.
But if he is pushed, his thirst for blood is unquenchable.
Keep the young children and the chihuahuas away.
Yeah.
Is this theme
the
song.
snack
Rippy
size
the Gator.
food.
He's a pretty small alligator, actually.
Yeah, he is.
It's only 14 months old.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yes.
He's still young enough that
If he does what Mike did with snakes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's an alligator, so it's pretty chill.
Is his theme song Rippy the Gator?
Is that the song? Oh, by Arrogant Worms. I remember that. Oh, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for.
I had no idea what you were talking about. I'm like, what?
Have you heard that song, Steven? Like the Rippy the Gator?
I'm sure I've probably heard it, but I forget it in the moment.
How does the chorus go, Jeremy? It's like the rip, 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 or it's like they repeat something like rip.
Yeah,
I'll have to look it up. It's a good song thotle. It's hilarious.
Wasting time, ending children's lives, or something like that.
Yeah, it was so good. It basically talks about like how like a little boy kept falling into the creek or something like that, and like Rippy the Gator went jump, 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 spending his time ending children's lives down in the bottom of the swamp, swamp, swamp. It was like so gruesome, but so funny because the kid kept losing limbs. Every time he fell into the creek, he lost an arm, then he lost another arm, then a leg, then another leg because Rippy the Gator went jump, jump, jump.
The song is like the same kind of feel for me. Yeah. There was a song by The Offspring that had the same kind of like lighthearted feel, and then you listen to the lyrics and you're like, this is not a lighthearted like. Have you ever heard the song "When You're in Prison"?
No, I don't think so. Has anyone else?
So The Offspring had a song. I think they released the song in like probably 2009, and they released this song, and we heard it. My buddy and I heard it on the radio, and we're just like, because it's like, when you're in prison, don't pick up the soap. It is bad for you. And it's like, oh my, this got really raunchy.
Rippy the Gator is a song. Rippy the Gator is a song that when you first hear, you're like, oh, what the heck? But then as it goes on, it just gets funnier, and then you just get like sucked into the chorus, and like everyone starts singing along. Everybody, Rippy the Gator went jump, jump, jump. Rippy the Gator went jump, jump, jump. Spending his time by ending children's lives down in the bottom of the swamp, swamp, swamp. Yeah, I recommend going to look that song up. It's hilarious.
Sure,
it's meant to be like humorous, which is it's good.
And it
I recommend it. Go watch
exceptionally horrifying. But let's talk about other things that are horrifying.
Even the best kind of humor.
Okay,
that's right.
I admit I do like macabre humor. Like I do often go back to the well. And Danny, I'll ask you a simple question. How do you make a dog meow?
Stick a cattail on him and feed him a mouthful of mice.
No, you freeze him
how do you do
and
it?
put him through a bandsaw. Meow.
That's so bad. That's so bad.
It's the same way that you make a cat woof. You cover it in gasoline and light it on fire. Woof. It's so dark.
Right there. So dark. It works though.
I'm not talking about some form of dark hero. Let's
right. Now let's talk about more dark humor. Let's go into Freedom Tunes.
Yeah, let's talk about Freedom Tunes and My Fed Friend.
It's actually...
People, let me tell you about my Fed friend. He's the far-right extremist who comments on my threads. People, let me tell you about my Fed friend. He's online all the time asking me to commit crimes. He told me that the white race has nowhere left to run, and I can't fight a race war without a third hole in my gun. 'Cause he's my Fed friend. Yeah, he's my Fed friend, yeah. People, let me tell you about my Fed friend. He loves Hitler and Mitt Romney. He's a center right-wing Nazi. People, let me tell you about my Fed friend. There's no right-wing cause he won't fight for. He's pro-vulture and pro-race war. He's always telling people online what must be done. That we ought to start attacking all the folks who protest fracking. If there's one single thing you take away from my tale, don't listen to my vet friend or you will end up in jail. Cause he's my vet friend. Yeah, he's my vet friend. Yeah, ba-da-ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba-da-ba.
This one is also pretty fun about John Fetterman and Ben Shapiro bullying.
That was so good.
Let's quickly watch. It's funny.
I agree. It was so funny.
Why are you wearing gym clothes instead of a suit, you dork? Hey gang, this dork is dressed like an underachiever who doesn't take his education seriously.
Come on, Ben. Let him be.
Oh, we're just having a bit of fun, Sandy. Give me your lunch money, nerd. I said give me your lunch money.
Fetterman.
That's what I thought. If I ever see you dressed like this again, I'm gonna whoop you. Here's a little reminder.
Fetterman.
Ben, how could you? That's it. Our debate is off. Come on, John. Let me help you.
Fetterman.
Now that's a woman.
Ben zoned again. And I'll remember this. Fetterman.
Fetterman. Fetterman. Fetterman. Fetterman.
This man should never be asked to wear clothing again.
Yay!
I love how they made him look or appear like that weird guy from the Goonies. Like Chug Fred
Fetterman. It's like, your IQ. John Fetterman's IQ is only a little bit above that, but kind of.
I will.
I oppose fracking, and I don't like. I like fracking, and I like fracking. Fetterman.
It's like answer to everything. By the way, that the whole bit with my Fed friend, that I like that because that's basically the thing.
Yeah,
is that in every one of the rules I think every conservative podcast has mentioned, the rule of thumb is if you meet somebody online that's saying hey yeah we should we should go blow up the White House. What do you think, guys? What do you think? It's like, I don't know. That sounds like a bad idea. I was like, no. I got like all the stuff that we need. Like how much money you got? I'm like, oh, I think I got like $500 in my bank account. It's like, oh, perfect. I can get all that. Like I can get like explosives and guns for exactly $500. It's like, yeah, you should run. It's probably a Fed. I love how he takes cultural things like that and he makes them hilarious parodies. It's great. And that song is catchy. I can see myself singing that, like my best friend. It's a good song. I like it.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, it's no Rippy the Gator, but it's up there.
Good evening, Shelley. You have come.
Shellers has arrived.
She has.
Just in time. Just in time for the new makeover.
What?
The new Justin Trudeau makeover.
Yes.
He's on board. Now he's got it. He gets it.
I get it. Yes, now I get it. I was like, well, no, that's not even what we're going to be talking. It's not even the next video.
No? Oh, that's right. Sorry, I
should have.
A little bit.
Yeah, because we haven't even done. Yeah, here we go. So this is a pastor in Wyoming. Pastor in quotations. Explaining to kids that it's going to be that going to the Pride Parade is like going to heaven, and both are filled with glitter. So prepare for just a whole lot of heresy.
It's also a lot hotter.
That's about as biblically accurate as I expect from a lot of places these days.
Yeah, I know.
That makes the Pride Parade like heaven, like pearly gates and streets of gold. Surely heaven must have as much glitter as a Pride Parade.
Some people, of course, do not think the Pride Parade is like heaven. After all, who would let these people in? Surely there's some kind of form to fill out. One must be given clearance and at least abide by the dress code. Speaking of, what is the dress code for heaven? What documentation is required?
Oh boy.
Of course. This is the strongest argument that the kingdom of heaven is like the Pride Parade. All are welcome. We don't get to decide who's in and who's out.
No.
Everybody's
We
in.
don't.
Everybody.
Yep. The road to heaven is wide, people.
It's the kingdom of heaven is like the Pride Parade because it is a protest against bigotry, against hate,
Wait, what?
against fear, a protest against
Heaven
being
is a
someone
protest.
you aren't, against the idea that only some of us are worthy, a protest against anything that does not lift up love.
Wow.
What are the chances are universalists?
By the
Well,
way,
they're certainly
by the way-
universalist.
okay, Stephen, is that lady wearing a unicorn horn on her head? Like, zoom in.
So.
I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, look.
Yep, that's
I
a
think
unicorn
she's
horn.
got a unicorn. She's got a unicorn. We're supposed to take her seriously.
Yes.
And she's wearing a unicorn horn on her head
Mhm.
as she's talking. It's like, oh my gosh.
No.
Yeah, I've been reading recently through the book of First Kings, and it's like in the Bible. And one of the things that's really interesting that I always point out to people is that the first king of Israel, he's like, oh yeah, we're not doing like the real worship anymore. We're making our own. We got 2 big cows, and we're gonna make 2 big golden cows, and now we're worshiping them. I'm like, sounds a little similar to today. It's like, instead of worshiping God in the God image, which should never be portrayed by any idol, we're going to make our own image, which is a golden cow. And today it's basically a golden unicorn, It's crazy, the parallels. But by the way, if you ever find yourself accidentally to a church like that, you should run for the hills, because I think the burning sulfur and fire from the sky is about about red down.
Oh,
and
like
full flash.
See, like it's sort of interesting because
there was a church got struck by lightning. Because
yes, there was.
similar.
That's right, there was. We covered that a while ago.
Yeah, we did. It was awesome. Yeah. It was like yes,
there was also,
might.
Do you guys also know who Brendan? It's like bullseye. You guys know who Brendan Robertson is?
Yes,
he's that famous he's a progressive not a pastor, but he's a false teacher. But he was speaking somewhere. It was a video of it. And he's talking, giving a sermon. All of a sudden, as he's talking, there's like a big rumble of like thunder, and like the lights go off, and all the sound goes off for like a couple seconds.
This doesn't mean anything.
This doesn't mean anything. This means nothing. Ignore that.
Yeah,
ignore
what
happened.
The shaking house.
It is so funny.
Yeah.
I was like, could have been any more clear there, God.
Mm-hmm. It was really quite funny. Mm-hmm. But now we're actually going to move on to this week in satire. Yes, Trudeau attempts to distract from Nazi controversy by growing cool new mustache. Yes.
That is a nice stash. Very nice stash.
Very dignified and Aryan. After an embarrassing incident in which the Canadian government honored a Nazi SS veteran in Parliament, Canada's dictator Justin Trudeau attempted to distract from the controversy by unveiling some cool new facial hair. If there's anything that has been a real asset to me in my career, it's my beautiful Cuban hair. Cuban hair? Cuban hair. I got that.
He gets it.
I was like, wait. Justin Castro. Said Trudeau to official state media reporters. Canadians will swoon when they see my sexy new mustache, and all will be forgiven. When du zwei die son strand fast mest du sest du brennen. Oops, sorry. Hundreds of Canada supporters gasped with delight upon seeing Trudeau's new look for the first time. Members of the Liberal Party applauded the deft move by Trudeau, praising his new look as sophisticated, alluring, and wunderbar.
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 We are so grateful to our beloved Trudeau for helping Canada move past this dark and humiliating chapter, said MP Anna Gainey. Just look at him. He's so dreamy, eh? At publishing time, Trudeau attempted to make amends for the shameful incident by instituting a day of remembrance in honor of the guy who killed Hitler.
By the way, Stephen, I want you to do something for me. I just posted something in the chat. I don't know if you can pull it up really quick. I was like, this is amazing. If you guys have never heard of somebody called Mr. Sunshine Baby, He's a YouTuber. Does a lot of political stuff. They actually created a sticker, and I was like, "This is the greatest sticker." I've never been more tempted to buy a sticker in my life, and other than this sticker. I did not see that coming.
That's pretty good.
I mean, like half blackface, half like Hitler stash. I'm like, that works. That works.
Yeah.
I would totally buy that.
It's fairly poignant. I like it a lot.
That is very good. Like that is. See, usually whenever you have something like some cultural moment, like Let's Go Brandon, you got to make merch. I mean, that is the time to strike. And this guy made merch that is pretty epic for this time. I'm like, well done, sir. Well done. That's well done.
Well done indeed.
I would totally put that in my car, just like putting up a bumper sticker. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Oh, that would be truly hilarious.
So that'd be so dope.
Yep. So that was some things that were funny and entertaining, but now we move on to the darkness.
All right, that was a good start. But
let's rant of the week.
Red alert.
All right, so this rant is about the devaluation of justice and what happens when you don't trust the authority systems that are in place.
Respect my authority.
Yeah, well, sometimes when respect my authority goes too far, then the reaction is extreme. So it's actually interesting because when I first started this show with Tate and the BLM riots started, this is what we expected would happen. It didn't get to that point. We thought that there would be martial law imposed for a short amount due to the BLM riots, and then in reaction to the martial law, then we'd have like these massive rioting and looting.
Yeah.
Or no, it would be the other way around. We'd have rioting and like massive rioting and looting, and then martial law would be brought in.
Martial law. Yeah.
But it could happen in Philadelphia. So the lead up to this story. So Eddie Irizarry's relatives distraught after charges dropped against officer who fatally shot him. So judge dismissed murder and other charges Tuesday against a Philly police officer who shot and killed the driver through a rolled up window. A confrontation police initially described as the officer shooting a driver after he lunged at him with a knife outside the car. Body camera footage showing the preliminary hearing of fired officer Mark Dial showed Irizarry holding the knife near his right leg. As police approached his stopped vehicle, the officers had pulled him over on a residential street after a short pursuit prompted by erratic driving. So I'm going to turn off the video, and then Danny and I can kind of, so that we don't have any issues. No, we're gonna have the sound, but we're not gonna have the video so that we don't get like dinged for showing violent content.
Yeah, sometimes just like you turn off the sound for.
We will. If you want the link to the video, then go for it. But Danny and I are just gonna watch the video, and then we'll have a quick reaction to it. Okay, where is the body cam footage?
Well, it's at the 48-second mark.
Yeah, that's...
They said lack of evidence.
If he had a knife, then that's completely unjustified. Because he shot through the window.
Yeah.
Like,
on the surface, I can see why it looks bad.
Yeah,
I can totally understand why it looks bad. Because for those who can't see it, what happened is you see the guy with the officer. He walks around the front of the car, comes around, and I think he looks into the vehicle. And it sounds like they're not disputing the fact that he had a knife.
Yeah,
but the guy like with a knife, I guess apparently he like the windows are closed and he starts shooting.
Yeah, he reached for his knife inside his car. But then the cop shot through the window.
Yeah.
To kill him inside the vehicle.
Here's what I'm thinking, like because I haven't read the story, but here's where I think it was the possible case is that when he reached for something, the officer doesn't know if it's a knife or a gun.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my thinking. It's like if you're an officer, because if he had a gun, like he obviously could shoot through the window.
Yeah. That's true.
It's kind of like people who, what do you call it? There's a lot of innocent people in a car who are like basically like they're a routine stop, and they reach for something, and the officer's like, "What are you reaching for?" And they panic because they, like very very common is that somebody pulls out a gun and starts shooting. Right?
Yeah.
Officers always be careful of this because this is a very real possibility. That's
like
my guess.
Yeah, like the cop just going by like preliminary analysis of the situation. From what I can tell, the cop rushed into a confrontation with this. Like, he tried to like immediately try and apprehend this guy in his car. And
right here. That's second sentence of the story. Municipal Judge Wendy Pugh agreed with the defense attorneys who argued the officer could have feared for his life because he thought the driver, 27-year-old Eddie Irizarry, had a gun. So yeah, it's what I was saying.
Yeah,
they basically argued that like when you reach for something, we don't know if it's a gun or if it's a knife. Like wasn't there like there was a very famous BLM story about that black guy who was kidnapping. Walked to his car. He walked to his car to get a weapon.
He reached into a knife, and like the cops were basically like, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." And then it's like, "Okay, well, you did it."
Kept calling him back, and he finally just got shot because he was going for a weapon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is like it's a situation which like could have been handled in a bit of a different manner, but emotions get heated. And of course, when you have city council members that are deliberately trying to be like, "Oh, this was a racially motivated killing." So like a city council member in Philadelphia said, "As we have seen with the killing of Walter Wallace and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and many other incidents like the killing of Eddie, deepen our fear and trauma and widen the breach of trust between communities of color and the police." Because that is totally what you want to do to cause peace.
You know how difficult it is to prove somebody's motivation unless they like wrote a note prior to.
Well, especially if they're involved in a police chase, it's like, I'm targeting that person's because he's black. It's like, no, he broke the law and was involved in a police chase.
Yeah. So this is a good example of how your beliefs will impact your outcomes or whatever, or what you do. So, for example, in people who are bought into the CRT narrative, they believe that if you see any kind of discrimination of any kind of disparity between white and black people, then the assumption
that it's racial injustice.
Be based on race. It's racial injustice. That I always assume, right? So when they live like basically like marinated in this culture that like black people are like victims or being oppressed by the white patriarchy, or the white man, then they see something like this. They see a black man get shot by police officers, and so because people are so bought into the idea that anytime a black man is shot by police, it's like racial injustice. And so, of course, they believe that they've convinced themselves it has to be like racial injustice, and so they basically rule out any because they've already condemned them in their minds. They don't actually. A lot of these people don't actually sit down, look at the facts, and analyze them properly. They just assume right off the beginning it's got to be racial. It's got to be like
Even
white people.
A lot of these cops are black.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Is that a lot of these cases, like we've seen them over the last 10 years. Every time there's one of these like police shootings, I'd say that like at least maybe 1 out of 20, you could actually make a case. Okay, maybe there was like some element of like whether there's some element of racial prejudice that might have like been a part, or maybe 1 of 50. I'm not sure what the number was.
Yep.
It's very low, but you see all of these like very smart people. They go through the case. They go through all of the details, and they ask you, okay, like, and look at this from a reasonable perspective, based on the law and based on the details. And if you're a reasonable person, you look at that and you're like, yeah, that was actually justified. The whole was it Michael Brown, like the guy who's like hands up, don't shoot, supposedly.
Yeah,
that one's a good example. That's an obvious one where that was a justified like self-defense thing from a cop, but black people still quote that. You would look at the one from the guy who was like chased down by these two vigilantes. I forget the name of that one, but the guy who's basically he had been trespassing. He been guilty of burglary, and police were looking for him. And these two
I remember that guy.
white guys in the neighborhood, two white guys in the neighborhood, they found him, they followed him, and they tried to apprehend him, and it led into a unfortunate manslaughter case. But it was the guy was guilty. He was already on the run. And it was unfortunate that you have innocent civilians basically make a mistake, and then they got the book thrown at them. But again, the problem is you have this culture where everyone just assumes black person got shot, it's got to be that darn white man, and then they don't care. They don't care about justice unless they get their outcome. That's a recipe for all sorts of disasters. So.
That's like how it's said in the Dirty Money song from Tom McDonald. It's like Black lives only matter when there's got a corpse to exploit, because the media makes millions off of the story of the Floyd.
Dan, yeah, that's a good point. That's an excellent point, actually.
Yes, it is. Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue on this story. So after he was after they let off the charges. And the charges were dropped. Then there was a flash mob style ransacking of Philadelphia. So dozens of people were arrested after a group of teens looted several stores in Philadelphia's center city. Flash mob style ransacking at stores such as Apple, Foot Locker, and Lululemon came after a peaceful protest. Yes? What are you addressing, Daddy? Okay. Nothing. Over a judge's decision to dismiss all charges, including murder, against former Philadelphia officer Mark Dial. A fatal shooting of a 27-year-old Eddie Azari. Interim police officer John Stanford said in a news conference the looters who were seen on video in masks and hoodies were not part of the protest, but rather a bunch of criminal opportunists.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that people were actually suggesting. They're like, these people are just trying to get food. They're just hungry. It's like they got their food from the Apple Store
family
and from Lululemon. Oh yeah, we got to eat that Lululemon.
Yeah,
it's got word lemon in it. So it's got to have food.
It's got to have lemons.
Got to have lemons in there. My God, make some lemonade, bro.
My goodness. No.
So tell us the facts.
Yeah. So after the facts. Protest was over around 7:30. Video posted to social media shows people dressed in black attire and wearing masks running out of Lululemon and Apple with merchandise. Police said another coordinated attack unfolded at Foot Locker. Stanford said officers arrested between 15 and 20 people on Tuesday night for actions that he underscored were not related to the protest. Number had grown by at least 52 by Wednesday evening. Police spokesperson Jane Rowe told the Associated Press. These were not protesters, these were criminals. There were people who took advantage of an opportunity and looking to destroy our city. Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney posted on X, formerly Twitter, that he appreciated the swift and necessary arrests. This is a sickening display of opportunistic criminal activity, and we will not stand for it. Foot Locker spokeswoman Olivia Mata confirmed to the Washington Post that our team members are safe after the ransacking at the city center district store. The safety of our team and that of our customers remains our number one priority.
This is happening everywhere, by the way, all over the states. Where, it's amazing how much people don't realize. And people really don't realize that when you do this, especially if you do this way too often, it destroys your city. People are like, why is everything so expensive? Like, oh my God, why is there no Walmart? Why is there no Target? Why is there nothing in my city? It's like, well, you dumbasses are basically ruining it for everyone else because you don't realize the cause and effect impact of your decisions. Now you basically are like, I get a free iPhone. This is great. It's like, oh yeah, well, good luck. Well, in the future, you're not gonna get anything.
Here's the video.
Yeah, the videos are great.
Where y'all going at? Where we going at? Where we going at? Where we going at? Hold on, watch out. They going to Nordstrom. They going to Nordstrom. Where's that? They going to Nordstrom. Move.
Going to Nordstrom.
is crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Good shot in the air would solve that. You're like, don't you dare.
Pretty quickly.
Oh my God, Mama! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
And she's laughing, like, oh man.
Of course she is.
Like, how people can find this entertaining is beyond me. It's so well, like, I understand the entertainment aspect of it because it's like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. But the idea that it's like, oh yeah, it's so humorous that we as a community, like, you don't want to say it's like, oh yeah, it's like this is just what black. No, but as a community in these urban centers, the young black populace has been convinced that this is something that they should be doing, and it's leading them down a terrible road. And there's no surprises, of course, when you have large segments of the population that are involved with crime, that are involved with drugs and addiction. Because this is stuff that's glorified.
Okay, I heard a couple years back there was there was a concerted effort to study the mentality of people in riots and looting kind of things like that. There's a phenomenon, I forget what it's called, like they have a name for it. But the phenomenon basically is, why is it that regular people who have no criminal records, they're always good citizens. They're like Neo from like the Matrix. They're like, they help their landlady carry their groceries, like, all that. And how is it that they're caught doing some of the most insane things? Like they do like mass larceny, they beat up, like, absolutely like beat up people. Some people even got caught doing rape in the middle of riots and completely like, like lawless kind of things. And the phenomenon is due because they believe that all of the laws are temporarily suspended. In other words, people behave well when they believe that all the laws are in place and there's real consequences to your behavior. But it's basically like the purge. If people believe that the law is temporarily suspended and that you basically can do things without any consequences, people will engage in the most insane behavior. And I think that's what happened in Philadelphia. Obviously, it's opportunism, but the opportunism is, let's say you're a black kid on that street, and you suddenly see about 20, 30 other black people run into the Apple store, and they're just grabbing handfuls of, like, iPhones or computers and all that. Suddenly you think like, oh, I guess we can get away with it. I guess, like, I want to jump in that too, because so many people are just running in, facing no consequences, that you think like, oh, for a very quick second, I might be able to, like, to be able to get away with this too. And so people will start doing things that they normally wouldn't do. It's a really bad phenomenon. The best way to solve that is like what happened in Vancouver. Stephen, you're very aware of the Vancouver riots, right? They had one after the 94, 95 Stanley Cup, and they had one after the 2011 one. And the 2011 one, what they did, which was, I actually really agree with it. I thought, like, that's good. They did everything that they could to do January 6th style pursuit of anyone who committed crimes. So they basically they did investigations, they looked at video, they looked at pictures and all that, and they basically went around and they tried their best to catch people afterwards that had either looted, that had rioted, that had committed crimes, and they basically punished them afterwards. And I'm like, that's the best way to deal with this kind of, like, misbehavior, is you actually make a really obvious statement, be like, we will not tolerate this, and you're not going to get away with this kind of behavior. And it's a good way of deterring that in the future, because people are like, well, yeah, maybe you can get away with it in the moment, but if they're going to come after you, then, like, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. I'm hoping that that's what they do. I don't know if they're going to do that, but
yeah,
that would be the best response if they do that.
Yeah, well, like, as we can see in this next story about an influencer who was arrested. Plus-size Philadelphia influencer Meatball begs for cash after being released from jail for looting. He was released on $25,000 bail Thursday, shortly after her release.
Mm-hmm.
She was sharing her experience in jail on social media. Philly saw a second night of looting Wednesday as thieves robbed liquor stores.
Mm-hmm.
So the looter, whose legal name is Dejia Blackwell, posted her Instagram story and went live after being released. According to the New York Post, she told her 196,000 followers that all I want to do is go treat myself, plugged in her Cash App handle for her followers. She posted on Instagram telling users to go bless her and said frequently she wanted to go get her toes done.
She was actually live streaming and receiving donations during the live stream.
Mm.
It was crazy. Like, I remember seeing the video of her, and yeah, she was like full on live. She was full on live streaming and like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if she was actually like involved in the looting, but I think the reason, if I remember correctly, the reason why she got pulled over is because she was dumb enough to live stream it.
Yeah,
the police were following up. It's like
okay.
Imagine,
so she had been urging people to buy clothing and hats from her brand. I've never been through nothing like that in my life. She faces charges of burglary, conspiracy, criminal trespassing, rioting, criminal mischief, criminal use of a communication facility, receipt or stolen property, and disorderly conduct. She told her 181,000 Instagram followers to join her as she ran through the street and drove to several locations hit by thieves. Tell the police if they lock me up tonight, it's going to be lit, it's going to be a movie. Everyone's got to eat.
Yeah.
She filmed looters in an Apple Store, Lululemon, and Foot Locker before moving on to a liquor store where she bragged about grabbing a bottle of Hennessy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And she had it in the video. She had it in the video as she was live streaming.
Oh no, this sort of violent opportunism, Matt Walsh had a good answer for this. Like, if you want to discourage this form of violent opportunism, and as harsh as it might seem, you put Meatball away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You say, all right, you were involved in a violent, opportunistic riot that made Philadelphia's streets a lawless chaos. So we're going to put you away for 20 years. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so unfair. It's like, well, that's what happens. Let that be a lesson to every one of you that wants to commit a violent crime in these cities. If you participate in a riot, we might not arrest all of you, but the ones that we arrest will be going to jail for a very long time, and you will never get your life back. And so you have to think twice about being involved in such significant, violent criminal behavior. And that's the only way that we reestablish law. Because if we're basically telling these people, oh yeah, you rioted, you did all these things, you committed these crimes, we'll give you a slap on the wrist and we'll send you on your way. They're going to be back doing it as soon as the next riot starts. But if
Ben Shapiro had one of the best takes on this. It's there's two things that have been proven to be the most effective deterrents for crime. Number one, the penalties have to be large enough that people are actually scared of the penalty. And number two, you have to be likely enough to be caught. Because if you have a high penalty, but the chances of getting actually caught and busted and actually charged on that penalty if those are really low, then nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
But if you have a high cost and a high likelihood for getting getting caught, then that is a massively high deterrent. Imagine, did you see videos of the police showing up and trying to take people down and arresting them? I don't know if you saw those videos.
No, I did not see those videos.
Okay, there's videos of looters going through stores. Suddenly, the police show up in this in mass, and they basically start taking down people and arresting them on the spot. And all I could think of is okay, they're arresting them. More likely than not, they're probably going to be arrested and then let go pretty much with very little actual consequences or whatever. I'm imagine if during that time you have something akin to martial law. And then you're yep, anybody who is caught, it's like a mousetrap. Yeah, we may not catch all the mice, but the mice that are caught are going to be facing some very severe consequences. There has to be a level of severity in situations like this, because this is happening everywhere. And too many people believe that the second rioting starts, that all bets are off. It's basically, they believe that it's the purge. They believe that all consequences are suspended.
Yep.
And so they just kind of go nuts.
That's basically how they were allowed to operate in 2020. And so they've come to believe that every single riot is the exact same as that. And it's like, oh no, like no matter what we do, cops will treat us with kid gloves and we won't have any real consequences and we'll be bailed out by the Democrats. So why would we act? Like, why wouldn't we act with reckless abandon? Why wouldn't we steal whatever we want? Because everything we do is going to be covered under the kind of umbrella of racial equality.
Yeah.
And racial justice. It's totally nonsense.
You're incentivizing criminality.
Yes.
And that's the problem. It's like this is actually on purpose, not by accident.
Yep.
Yeah, but speaking of like incentivizing criminality, talk about this guy.
Oh yeah, so this guy. So this is another story that happened this week. Charging documents revealed disturbing details about murder of Baltimore tech CEO Pavel Lapierre. So Baltimore police were grilled with questions as Baltimore city officials announced the arrest of a man accused of killing Baltimore tech CEO Pavel Lapierre. Jason Billingsley was arrested at the MARC train station in Bowie, according to officials. He was taken into custody without incident. Billingsley is facing dozens of charges related to 3 cases, including Lapierre's murder. She's charged with first-degree murder, first- and second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, and a weapons charge. So Pavel Lapierre was found beaten to death on the roof of her apartment building. On Monday, according to the charging documents, Lapierre was killed on Friday, but wasn't discovered until Monday after an officer responded to the reports of a missing person, and a coworker found her body on the roof of her apartment building. The documents go on to say investigators viewed surveillance video on Friday that showed a black man knocking on the door of the apartment building and waving to Lapierre, who was in the lobby at the time. Lapierre let Billingsley into the building, and they entered an elevator together, according to charging documents. But an hour later, Billingsley was seen leaving the stairwell into the lobby of the building, scrambling for an exit, according to charging documents. He was seen wiping his right hand on his shorts before leaving the building, according to it. In the documents, they said the crime scene consisted of a brick, blood, buttons, pants, 3 teeth, a broken hair clip, and a pair of red shoes. She was strangled and beaten. We don't know of any previous connections between Lapierre and Billingsley. What is interesting is that just earlier last week, Billingsley had been identified as the suspect who raped a woman attempting to kill her and another man inside a home on Edmondson Avenue. What he also did, he raped a woman attempting to kill her and another man, and then he's been charged with home invasion, first and second degree rape, assault, and arson, because what he did was that he waved at them from inside the lobby. They wouldn't let him in, and so he smashed the window in the lobby, broke into the lobby, tied them both up, beat them, and then set them on fire, which set fire to the rest of the building.
And why is this guy still alive?
Well, and that's the thing, is that the Baltimore police identified this guy as a threat, but they did not set out a press release. Like, they didn't say, hey, this guy is on the loose, do not approach, do not do anything. They didn't set out some sort of, active, warning. When we have a Amber Alert or something that happens in Alberta, we have a warning that shows up on our phones.
Mm-hmm.
If this sort of thing had been set up as, hey, this guy is on the loose. If you see a man with this, do not approach. He's highly dangerous. Do not let him into your building. Immediately call police, run the other way.
Yeah.
There was no warning sent out because they didn't want to cause a panic. And because they didn't cause a panic, this woman's like, oh, it's just some helpless black man who wants into the building. And then she let him in, and he assaulted her, raped her, tortured her, and killed her. And unfortunately, this guy was also, I don't know if they have this in the another one, this guy was recently out on bail. This is what happens when you have soft on crime policies. You have the people that are in the riot, and then they elevate because they have soft on crime policies, and they're like, whatever, I'll just do what I want. I'll just keep going further. I'll just keep going further. And then finally, it ends up being something like this.
Yeah. I think that this is very similar to what happened. What was that guy who was choked to death on the New York subway? he's like the Michael Jackson impersonator kind of dude and all that. And the guy basically like he tried to basically hold him until police showed up.
I know the guy who
Daniel Penny was the guy who was charged.
Penny,
yeah, but like so that criminal, like the guy he was like trying to like restrain, he had a long history of being an absolute violent man who was already a public nuisance and a very dangerous person to keep going in the subway, right? And we see this all the time. The problem is, I actually love this. Is one of the things I love about Pierre Poilievre here in Canada is that Pierre Poilievre basically made the point in one very long, very good speech. He basically said the majority of violent crimes in a lot of these communities are being committed by a small number of repeat offenders.
Yeah.
Right. It's not an epidemic of like rapists and murderers and like an army of them running around like causing havoc. It's actually a small number of very violent and very dangerous criminals who are basically being captured, processed, released, and are pretty much let loose back into the community to wreak more havoc. And he's like, if you wanted to actually stop some of this violent crime that you're seeing everywhere, you kind of like you basically should be locking up the most dangerous ones, and you would see the crime rates like go down like almost overnight, because like the majority of these violent crimes are being committed by repeat offenders, not by regular thing. It would be kind of like you know what happens if being in Canada, we were very familiar with this. What happens when the bear gets aggressive and starts attacking people, Stephen? What do?
What happens when the bear? Well, they put the bear down.
They find the bear and they have to put it down. Why? Because the bear is now now used to humans and is now going to be aggressive. Imagine if every time we caught an aggressive, dangerous bear, we just grabbed it, relocated it, and just let it loose again, and then it attacks another group of people, and then we grab it, relocate it and let it loose again, and we just let it keep going nuts. But we keep grabbing it and relocating it, It's fine, but it keeps attacking people and it keeps killing people and it kills children and kills old ladies and kills your grandma's best friend or something like that. That's basically yeah, and that's the equivalent of what they're doing with these violent offenders. Like they should be locked up, but again, we have to remember that the Democrats are not. People assume that a lot of this is just incompetence. People just think they're just dumb, they don't know what they're doing, their policies suck. But you have to remember, it's for a lot of these people. This is organized. This is a very organized thing. They're doing it on purpose, and there are groups out there who are advocating this. There's a reason why you see the same soft on crime, pro criminal policies being enacted in Canada, in the U.S., in Europe, like UK, and France, and Germany, because it's all basically formulated by the same think tanks that are basically saying their goal is to create chaos in order to basically demolish the society, destabilize it, so that you can basically destroy it and rebuild it as a communist utopia. That's their goal. So all of this stuff that we're seeing is not the Philadelphia thing, the riots there. That's not incompetence. That's a concerted effort by a lot of people with a lot of power and a lot of influence, that they have the goal. They're going to basically make American cities so insanely chaotic, so incredibly horrible, that they're basically going to beg for somebody to come in, do martial law, and rescue them. It's basically the entire playbook from like V for Vendetta, or it's the playbook from like Winter Soldier, like the Captain America Winter Soldier, when Hydra said we're trying to create division and destabilize the society so that we can come in and take over. That's basically the idea. So yeah, none of this is by accident. None of this is based on incompetence. It's all planned out. It's all very methodical.
Yep.
And if you want to fight back, you have to basically start letting your friends, people around you, know that no, it's not incompetence. It's very intentional. They want to incentivize criminals to run wild, and they want to take away your weapons and your ability to defend yourself, so that you are basically panicked and afraid and helpless, so that you're going to be much easier to control when they take over. So just remember that. That's all part of the plan. Like in the Joker. It's all part of the plan. All right, Steven. Rant over.
All right. Rant over. Yeah.
I take over. Uh-oh. Corvo's taking over. Corvo Bianconero. Nice name. I like it.
I take over. Okay. Just trying to see. Like, I can... Why is he booger? It has been a while since you have commented, Corvo.
It's been a while, eh? Yeah, he's back.
But...
He's back with a vengeance. But shall we, Steven?
It's been ages. Since 2022. Yeah. In May.
Wow.
Dang. Well,
Steven knows all.
Well, because I can check these things.
Yes, he can. He can look into your past, into your dark, dark past.
All right. So now we're going to go into the news that you may have missed, to talk about the news that you may have missed.
That's some nice repetition.
I know, but it's the way it works.
Just in case you missed it.
Just in case you missed it. Now, this is something you probably did not miss, but just, didn't want to take an entire segment talking about the second presidential debate.
Yeah,
so,
I ended up watching it twice.
I didn't watch it twice. I just watched it once. So
well, I watched it. I listened to it twice. Like once on the Tipcast IRL podcast, and then the other time on the Steven Crowder podcast. And I was like, "Yep, 2 times to watch this." But I mean, it was about as entertaining as a Republican debate can be.
Yes,
it was a gong show.
It was a gong show.
It was dumb.
It was kind of crazy.
Actually, hold on. Before you jump in there, Steven, I want to hear Conquerworm's takeaways from that. What his thoughts were on that whole gong show.
On the debate? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was just terrible. Like there was no good speaking. Like they had those constant arguments in the background.
Yeah, they really need a mute button to take effect. They really need to press it sooner.
Well,
that's right. That's right.
They muted the moderators too, because like some of the questions they asked were retarded.
The problem was
right?
The questions were brought by what was that company? It was basically like a Latino. Well, it was like a Latino MSNBC.
Oh, it's it's a Mexican TV station, but basically a Latino MSNBC. I know what you're talking about.
I wonder if they actually say it in this article. I don't think they do.
No, but it's basically
Who would you vote off the island question?
Oh yeah, that was so.
Oh, everyone was like, "Are you kidding me right now?
No,
Are you kidding me right now?"
Like if you actually watch, Chris Christie went for the marker.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he wrote something down.
He wrote something down.
Some of the thing I hated about the whole thing, the jokes were so bad.
Oh yeah, the jokes were bad.
Okay, he's like Chris Christie did he's like, Duck. We're gonna start calling you Donald Duck. I'm like, wait, no. Was that a joke? Was that a joke? Like what?
No. Donald Duck is not the one that you like if you.
It's not clever.
No, and a lot of the Macedonians don't care if Trump's skipping the debate. Like if you want, and considering his recent policy positions, if you want a good nickname for Trump, and I've used this in a lot of conversations, you call him Democrat Donnie.
Democrat,
because that's what he is now. He's Democrat Donnie.
Okay. Well, tell you something you want to hear.
What? He was a Democrat before.
Well, yeah, he was Democrat. He still has Democrat policies.
Yeah,
he spent the night appealing to unionists.
He was appealing to Michiganders.
He was at the union protest.
Anyways, the other thing I found funny was I'm letting you get away with all these
Well, yeah, that's because you know I'm telling the truth.
No, whatever. Because you're basically like Nikki Haley. You're just gonna throw out all sorts of false attacks based on nothing. Yeah, false attacks.
Where did I lie?
She assumed that Vivek Ramaswamy was encouraging kids to be on TikTok, and I'm like, that is the opposite of what he said. The opposite. He said that
his messaging was inconsistent. Because it's like, we don't want children to be on. We don't want children to be. Hello, Mayhem. Mayhem, join the Discord, man. We'd love to hear your viewpoints.
I still say Trump won the debate, even though he wasn't there.
Yeah, I actually would agree with that.
Dumbest point of view.
No, he wins by basically them attacking each other.
Because he's just like, he doesn't want anyone to criticize his viewpoints. Like, yes, they have to focus on attacking him because
strategy-wise, it's a smart move.
Well,
even like Ben Shapiro, even Ben Shapiro, who is a very obvious, DeSantis lover. He like it's super obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Even he admitted it's good strategy for Trump not to be there because there's no upside for him to be there. I'm like, yep, I agree. Even Ben Shapiro agreed with me. I'm like, well, that works.
The reason why Trump won is because all the contestants shot their own foot off.
They did.
I think it might have been better if there was only 3 of them. But
the next debate will have only because the next one is supposed to be that there'll be a cutoff, and then I think they have to have 5%. And so the next one will only have DeSantis and Haley and Vivek and maybe Pence.
No, I think Tim Scott maybe.
No.
Pence just seems like a. I don't know.
The third one is third Republican debates.
Either Tim Scott or Mike Pence. One of those two. I'm willing to kind of flip a coin on them.
Either way, with their talking points and their arguments, it's not helping them. It's doing them a disservice. It's kind of just showing that they're all idiots.
I'm not even sure why Nikki Haley is hovering so high. Like, she's a war hawk.
Well, because she's the old school Republican. That's what she is.
But she's almost like a war hawk in the sense of the unlikable war hawk. George W. Bush. He ended up leading us into a whole bunch of foreign wars, but I'm he kind of went a little bit over. He obviously went over. People hated him, but Nikki Haley is like, how are you gonna deal with Mexico? I'm gonna send drones, and we're gonna get a whole bunch of military action down there, and we're gonna smoke those darn Mexicans. I'm like, dang girl, you're kind of going a little unhinged here. So
is she a Rhino Republican or?
She's such a Rhino Republican.
Well, but
she's the worst.
But she is. Well, but that depends on what your definition of Republican is.
Well, it's Rhino.
She is a war hawk, but she does have other conservative policies.
Her pro-life views, be we need to compromise on pro-life, beliefs so that we can win elections. I'm like, great, you're also a fake pro-lifer,
Also, the guy in the lead.
Yeah, listen to. Do you like Charlie Kirk?
Okay, Charlie Kirk was simping so hard. I watched that and I was like, Charlie, you are so out of it.
No, but Charlie Kirk is one of the most he is probably one of the most effective people that are probably going to get the Republican Party at least a fighting chance in the next election because he's fighting hard for grassroots.
He's fighting hard for but he's not. He's sort of shifted. He's not fighting for.
Yeah.
He's just fighting for Trump.
No, but he's fighting for the election itself. He's trying to get grassroots efforts to get out the vote, to do ballot harvesting. Well, because the RNC's not doing much.
Well, no, because the Trump campaign can't.
No, because the Trump campaign can only do campaigning. It's the RNC that should be doing the grassroots efforts to get votes out. But they're not doing it, and Charlie Kirk is actually doing the most. There's people out there who are full on in the political space, like Matt Gaetz and Ted Cruz, who recognize that Charlie Kirk is probably one of the foremost leaders helping to kind of get the to get Republican votes out, which is amazing. So Charlie Kirk is he's not just some outsider who doesn't know.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he has shifted. He's gone from a generalized conservative to I will only support Trump and I will only do this.
Well, he decided to support Trump.
Yes,
that's different than just being I'm all Trump and everyone else sucks. It's no, he just believes that Trump is the best candidate, which is different than just being blindly Trump. Trump is like the man, and everyone else like it's like nobody else. Like he understands. He's a lot smarter than you give him credit for. I think you're kind of simplifying his views.
The videos that I've listened to him, when he was describing like Trump, when Trump was like failing to describe a man and a woman, and Trump like failing to address the abortion issue, he was like, it doesn't matter what Trump says.
No, he didn't say that. He explained the whole strategy.
He explained the strategy. He said his accomplishments in the past are the only thing that matters, and that his words in the present, because his words in the present are appealing to Democrats, which is never going to work because Democrats hate him.
No. He was basically like, I remember I watched the entire. Okay, let's not get too far into this, but basically what Charlie Kirk was saying was that as a politician, like as a political commentator, Charlie Kirk can be completely open about his pro-life beliefs. He can. But as a politician, he understands that if he was a politician, he wouldn't be able to speak so candidly about everything that he believes pro-life. He has to be a lot more strategic. And so he was like giving him the benefit of the doubt. And he's right in that we may choose to turn on Trump and be like, well, he's no longer pro-life. I'm like, well, you have to remember that Trump was probably the most effective pro-life president of the modern era. So he has proven. No,
he didn't pass any pro-life policies.
He appointed 3 of the judges that helped overturn Roe, which is massive. That like you can't take that away from him.
Well, no,
he was the
like,
first president.
He just had
to go up at he like obviously, but that's the reason why they put him in, because he happened to be the best. Everyone knew that whoever had to be installed had that mandate. But you also have to remember all of his pro-life policies, which he went through. So I'm not saying that I agree with his statement. I don't. I'm saying that I understand some of the strategic, like elements of what he's trying to do. Okay, as a politician, and I do believe he has a good record in terms of supporting pro-life causes. So for that alone, I'm like, okay, he's actually shown, not just said what he believes. Like there's a lot of people who say like, well, I'm pro-life. It's like, well, okay, we'll see what happens when you actually have power to do something about pro-life issues. Trump has already proven that he can and that he has. He has a good record as a pro-life candidate, and like if he has changed and gonna go soft on pro-life issues, that's that.
Well, it's not just pro-life issues that I think he's going soft on. I think he's going soft on a lot of things, because he's trying to attract what he feels is going to be the Democrat vote.
That's a lot of motive.
Well, yeah, like there's a lot of motive there, but
no. I'm saying you're assuming his motive, but you don't actually know his.
Like the problem is that nobody really knows what Trump's principles are. He doesn't have any true set of defined principles, and so he'll go like Ron DeSantis sets the tone. He's like, "This is what I believe," and Trump's like, "Okay, I'll modify my position." Biden's like, "Okay, I'm going to go speak to the United Auto Workers. I'm going to go support them in a United Auto Workers jacket." And then Trump immediately goes and appeals to the union.
Yeah, he goes and he speaks in... Okay, I'll just say this really quick when it comes to like the Michigan talk. It's the exact same thing as when that tragedy happened in East Palestine.
Yeah.
Okay? Trump was basically going to a place where Biden basically was failing, and he went to like speak to people there. Like he does that. He actually makes that effort. When he went to Michigan, and I remember I watched the speech that he gave, and I'm like, yeah, I agree with pretty much everything he said in that speech. Whether or not he was going to be successful, I don't think he was even appealing to the unions. I think it was because Michigan is a swing state.
It is,
and so he has to speak to Michigan voters, and he has to give an opposing message to the one that Biden is trying to give. So I'm like, yeah, like the president, President Trump wants to go there and appeal to a swing state of voters in a thing that matters to a lot of them. Sure, that's a great opportunity. Go do it. Go speak to them. Yeah. Whether or not I don't think he was actually appealing to the auto workers as much as he's appealing to people in Michigan.
It's just kind of exceptionally coincidental of the timing.
Yeah, well, it works. By the way, you guys haven't noticed, Stephen and I are on very opposite sides of the Trump versus Trump versus
DeSantis kind of debate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Trust me, I'm much less harsh now than I am on Twitter.
Yes,
I am very harsh on Trump supporters on Twitter.
Yes, he is. Yeah, but that's because you love it, though. By the way, this Mayhem or YEG Mayhem, does he have any thoughts on the debates or on the whole situation?
So why it's anything that you're comfortable with. So of course, if you're not, then just say you're not. That's fine. So
yeah, that's fine.
You can chip in anytime. It's fine. Don't feel any pressure.
No
Anyways,
worries, man.
let's keep on moving.
Okay.
So, work shift from Bloomberg: how Nike, CVS, and Amazon moved the needle on diversity after BLM protests.
Yeah, this is crazy.
So yeah, most of this is kind of like this. The quick hits are not really important, but this is crazy. In the summer of 2020, something astonishing happened. Corporate America united around a common goal: the BLM protests. Many of the biggest, most lucrative, and recognizable companies promised to hire and promote more black people and others from underrepresented groups. That summer, Bloomberg News reporters and editors started a project to hold companies accountable to those pledges by trying to collect data on workforce diversity that's usually kept private. We asked the entire S&P 100 to share information on their worker demographics, which they usually only disclose to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We targeted those companies because they employ millions of people across the United States, and they're influential, lucrative, and sit across the broad swath of industries. At first, only a handful complied. 3 years later, we have data to almost all 100 companies for 2020 and 2021. A comprehensive data set for 2022 doesn't exist yet. What did we learn? In the first year of the BLM protests, 88 S&P 100 companies added more than 300,000 workers to their roster. Of those, 94% were people of color. And if, like, for this, I looked at their roster, they do actually include Hispanics in that definition of people of color, but I believe even with that metric, people of color by their metric only encompasses about 20% of the population. So 20% of the population got 90%, 94% of all new hires in these big companies.
Look at the charts underneath there. Like it's insane. Like the only demographic that goes down like consistently, like the only one that also dropped was the professionals. Yeah. Professionals, like some black people dropped on that one as well.
From executives.
But every other
else, whites got dropped significantly. Or at least the demographic makeup. So either they were let go, and of course Amazon added workers of all races. So it says that they added whites, but most growth for people of color at CVS was in less senior roles. Okay, well it's just because they hired a whole bunch of... But that one data set is just absolutely insane.
The idea here is that... again, this is where ideas meet consequences, okay? Ideas have consequences. The idea is that equity demands forced outcomes, okay? Imagine if you have an entire classroom of children, and you basically say, we believe that Mexicans are like really, really oppressed. And so if you're a Mexican, you basically get to come up and you get two ice cream sandwiches instead of one because to make up for your lack of privilege and all that. So all the Mexican kids come up and they get two ice cream sandwiches. That means that a whole bunch of the white kids don't get ice cream sandwiches because they took the ones that normally would have gone to those kids. So you're actually promoting injustice.
Yeah.
You're promoting inequality, and you're promoting discrimination based on race. And so like the idea, like these progressives, I don't actually like the name progressive because like it's actually regressive because you're actually bringing people back to the regressive era with just different players. In the past, it was trendy. I remember like hearing a story once, in the book. I was reading a book about this kind of stuff used to happen all the time. The author basically said he remembers when he was little, hearing a pastor at his church talk about black people and talk about like why they're so good at at being like servants, like waiting tables and all that. It's like, oh, like comical, like portrayal. It's obviously it's prejudice because he's assuming this applies to all black people, right? That's prejudice. And so we look at that and we cringe because we're like, oh, that's horrible. You're assuming that all black people are just like that, when it's not true. It's obviously a caricature, right? But now we're doing the same thing, but we just changed characters of who are the people that we're targeting. And so these things have consequences, and now the consequences are you're now actively employing racist hiring policies. We would have been like horrified in the past if we heard that like companies are like intentionally rejecting black applicants. It's like, why don't you take black applicants? I don't like black people. It's like, we'd be horrified. But now it's like, oh, well, you can discriminate against like white people because we're basically trying to demonize white people. Why are we doing it? Because white people are the majority demographic in this country. They're the ones that, like still. It's going to change obviously in the next like decade or two, because we're importing so many Latinos in the States, so many like other minorities into Canada, that whites are no longer going to be the dominant demographic in this country. But for right now, it's the whole plan. It's part of the plan. You want to destabilize and completely change the entire foundation of the country by completely changing the demographics. Part of that is because the white majority demographic in the States is also has a history and connections to the Christian heritage that that was responsible for founding America. But if you remove white people from any positions of power and authority in America, you can basically be like, oh, you're black people, you're Asian people, you're like a country of immigrants that have no real. Then it was like, well, what do you care about the Christian roots of the Constitution? What do you care about free speech and all these kind of things? And then people are like, yeah, we don't care about that, and so they basically can completely tear the country apart. That's the plan.
It is.
It's all part of the plan.
Let's go on to the next story.
Do it.
All right.
So this is from Post Millennial. Breaking. Elon Musk promises to trim list of demonetized words after Chaya Raichik revelations. By the way, Chaya Raichik is the founder and operator of Libs of TikTok. Yeah. So in an X Spaces held on Thursday, Elon Musk said the list of demonetized words revealed by Libs of TikTok's Chaya Raichik needs to be trimmed, and promised to get on this. I mean, I can't. I have to say, like, Elon Musk is like the bomb. He really does get the bomb. So he explained many of these foolish things needed to fix, adding in regards to the list she provided. I've looked at this list, and it's some of the terms on the list. I'm like, look, if it's a bad word, I need to look up or get a dictionary or something, because I didn't realize it was a bad word. So this list that needs to be trimmed. So the words that are on that list include words like groomer, LGBTQ, which I'm shocked that that's actually like on there. Like I thought that was like a protected word. Police, ugly. Oh, they have the word amen?
Apparently.
Holy God. Amen is on there. My goodness. Yeah. Drag queens on there. Innocence is on there. That is insane.
Damn, son.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Innocence.
What's number 8, Steven? Can you get that one? Like
non-binary.
Non-binary. Oh, okay. Those words can be you. So apparently these words. What happens if you use these words? Does it give you like some kind of a penalty? Something happens.
So
demonetized words. Yeah, so if you use these words, I guess you'll be demonetized. Essentially, it's a penalty for saying not. Well, on Twitter X.
Wow.
Remember, people can get money from using Twitter, right? Depending on the amount of impressions that you get. So apparently, there's words that will basically make a post that you make demonetized, so you don't get money from using it.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Something actually very interesting, talking about like demonetization, censorship. This is crazy. UK journalist arrested for malinformation after exposing truth about Trudeau applauding the Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
So he was actually an interesting individual because he did a lot of research into the guy that they invited to the House of Commons. And during his show on Sunday night, he vanished 20 minutes before the show ended as she was talking with fellow guest Johnny. Sputnik report, Thornton confirmed that officers from the regional cybercrime unit invited him to be interviewed. When he declined, they put him under arrest and drove him to a police station in Bristol, many miles from his home. They attempted to serve him with a formal caution of malinformation in relation to 16 videos.
Wow, that's even new. Malinformation.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Several of the videos presented discussed the conflicts in Ukraine, focused on the failure of Kiev's counteroffensive and indiscriminate shelling of civilian areas. Another discussed the evidence presented by the Russian Ministry of Defense and the U.S. Biolab program in Ukraine, linking it to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, this is, like, that's exceptionally scary.
Who is it that was UK journalist?
So...
They don't say who it is, right?
Oh, what's this? They do put... No, Warren Thornton.
Okay.
He was hosting an edition of his podcast called The Real Truth. So...
Yeah. It's by the way, here's a question I want to make sure that people okay. Ask yourself, whatever you ask yourself on any of these censorship issues, if the people that are censoring consider the topic sacred. Okay? And by sacred, I mean there is no right way at all of saying anything negative about it. It's basically it's taboo, it's off limits. You cannot say an unflattering or negative thing about it. You basically have to sing its praises. A good example of that. Look at the Canadian Parliament. Whenever they talk about climate change is sacred to them. You cannot say a negative word about it. If you say anything that's even remotely unflattering about climate change, you are considered anathema. You're like, we should banish you from polite society for even having the gall to question it. So that's an example. Ask yourself, do they consider it sacred? Are you even allowed to dissent? Because I think a lot of these things are sacred to them. They're 100%. Considered sacred. All right, take the next one.
Okay. So from Yahoo. Elon Musk fires Twitter election integrity team after pledging to grow it.
That was pretty funny.
A month after pledging to expand the safety and elections team at X, formerly known as Twitter, Elon Musk has instead slashed his workforce. The information reported Wednesday that half the global team has been cut, including the head of election integrity team, Dublin-based Aaron Roderick. At least 4 people had been let go. It's unclear how many remain. In separate but related news, the site also removed a feature that allows users in some locations to report election misinformation. Musk appeared to confirm the report Wednesday night, posting, "Oh, you mean the election integrity team that was undermining election integrity? Yeah, they're gone." He didn't elaborate on the quote-unquote incendiary claim, and evidence suggests that Roderick's firing may be retaliatory. He had been the subject of a recent disciplinary process at X because he believes that he liked posts from his personal accounts that were critical of Musk and new ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino. Yes, because are you stupid? Yes, I'm going to be on the social media platform that my boss owns, and I'm going to like posts that are critical of him. Because that's going to get you into his good books. Yes, I do not know how to pronounce the Earth current term. But yes, Canada would kill a baby for the climate change gods, 100%. They would definitely kill a baby for the climate change gods. They would kill a lot of things for the climate change gods. It's pretty... Ew.
You hear my comment?
That you just posted?
Yep.
Justin Trudeau was kill his own grandmother would win a majority. Yep, that's true.
He would. You tell me I'm wrong. Wrong. That man is so power hungry. That man is such a power hungry tyrant. Like, he would kill. He would kill a puppy. He would kill a bag of puppies if he means a majority. That man has no soul left. He's soulless.
And the babies can be killed post-birth. Well, we've covered a lot.
They pretend it doesn't happen, but it's very difficult to find information on it. But it does happen.
And abortion statistics are virtually impossible to see.
Yeah, but what you hear is people who are in the pro-life community that have a lot of insider information. They pretty much confirm that happens.
All right.
One more, 2 more stories, but let's cover this one.
Quick.
I found this one interesting. The author of Genderqueer book found in school says, "I do not recommend this book for kids," which is hilarious. because this book is pretty much at the center of the porn for kids controversy. Author of the book, titled Genderqueer, one of the controversial LGBTQ materials featuring explicit images that's cropped up again and again in schools, has stated the book is not meant to be available for young children. Maya Kobabe, who identifies as non-binary, told the Washington Post that her book is aimed at older... that's children!
Yep, still children.
You're going to be talking about older, still children, unless they're like 19 or 18 or 19. Anyways, not kindergarten age kids. It keeps being called a children's book, but I think that's coming from being misreading of the comic book form. Genderqueer is a comic and in full color, but that doesn't mean it's for children. I originally wrote it for my parents and then for older teens who were already asking these questions about themselves. I don't recommend this book for kids, he said in an interview posted last week. So, by the way, if you are a parent or a politician or somebody trying to advocate for like getting this stinking book out of the libraries, you've basically been given a gift. Even the author says this is not for kids, for underage prepubescent kids. You perverts! Like,
you perverts.
Seriously, like seriously, like anybody who advocates that let's give animated pornography to children, it's for their own good. I'm like, would you support like allowing kids to read hentai, which is Japanese animated porn?
Yep.
Is hentai okay? Because apparently, if your standard is that animated porn is okay, then hentai is like, like it's totally cool. And what about all sort? There's an entire industry of animated pornography, like comic book pornography, that is like out there. Should we allow it for kids? Actually, even worse. Like I remember hearing about this, and I was like, oh, like it actually made me like almost like want to throw up a little bit. But there's literally an entire world of comic books where they take animated like characters, like childhood like animals.
Yep.
Like like what do you call it? Any kind of cartoon about animals, like like animal characters, like and they make porn out of it. I'm like, should that be allowed to kids? I'm like, if your standard is it's okay because it's pornography, because it's animated, it's cartoon pornography, then you basically like cannot defend like stopping hentai and all these like porn into kids. Terrible stuff. But yeah, I don't know, another weapon and tool for the toolbox for those people who are conqueror furries. I hate to say it, but yeah, furries are now part of the LGBT community protected class. So if furries are part of the LGBT, that means that you cannot stop schools from putting in furry porn into schools. Like this is the slippery slope that we're vastly like diving headfirst into. My goodness.
Yep. Well, I just find this one quote. So Senator Kennedy reads passages from the pornographic book Genderqueer and All Boys Are Blue. The Illinois Secretary of State, Alexi Journolas, I think that's how you pronounce that, I have no idea, responds by saying, quote, "Those words are disturbing coming from your mouth." They're disturbing coming from everyone's mouth.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's finish off the news you may have missed. Florida All Ages Pride Events features children's books on sex positions and how to masturbate. Yeah, that's just disgusting. All Ages Pride event in Melbourne, Florida on Saturday featured a children's table with sexually explicit books and other pornographic content. According to Florida's Voice News, the Space Court Pride event, which was marketed as a family-friendly at a children's picture book table that included the controversial children's book titled It's Perfectly Normal, which describes masturbation, shows images of sex positions and other porn content. It's Perfectly Normal has been banned from multiple Florida County public schools, including Broward, Marion, and Orange. The LGBTQ community has claimed that the banning of these sexually explicit books for children is anti-LGBTQ. Other banned books featured on the table included I Am Jazz and When Aiden Became a Brother. In addition, the children's book table sold Read Banned Books t-shirts and asked for donations to their GoFundMe, according to the outlet.
Yeah.
So we can't show this because that would
get
us banned.
Yeah, it's just no way.
Yeah, like.
But look at the quotation at the bottom, Steven. There's a quotation from
this one
right after. I don't understand.
Okay, so Republican Representative Randy Fine strongly criticized the event. I don't understand why these people are so intent on showing stuff to children. It's sick. If you're an adult, have at it. I just don't understand the desire to groom. I don't get it. It's disgusting. Quote, the problem with these people is that they conflate it. They conflate criticizing it being shown to children as criticizing it in general. It's like they can't do it. It doesn't involve children. I don't understand it. Well, there was an event.
It's for perverts.
Yeah.
Literally.
There was an event a while back. I think it was also a Florida Pride Parade. And like because of DeSantis's regulations, which are like the only reason this event has been allowed is because the courts, like they're allowing a challenge in court against it, and so for now it's allowed. But what's going on? So I'm just going to quickly address Conquer Room. Bestiality is not when one identifies as an animal. Bestiality is when you have intercourse with an animal.
No, but that's
right.
Okay,
but the person identifies as an animal, so they pretend that they're an animal.
If one identifies.
Follow their. Okay, so
If
let me give you.
I get it.
Let me give you an example. There was a clip from the whatever podcast. The guy was actually asking if a guy is having sex with a trans woman, is he gay? And everyone was like just shocked, like, what do you mean? Like, he's not gay. Like, how is it not gay? He's a male having sex with another male. It's like, that's not a male. In their view, it can't be gay because he's having sex with a woman in their view. This is the way it works. Yeah. The belief is true. So if they declare something, it's magic. Mm-hmm. Basically, people in this camp, in this cult, they believe in magic. Okay?
Yep.
They believe if you say the magic word, I identify as, then you've committed an act of magic, and you're magically the thing that you've declared yourself to be. It's like you say abracadabra and suddenly there's a rabbit, right? Except there's no rabbit. You just have to believe that there's a rabbit. That's what they do. So if somebody identifies as like an animal and they have sex with an animal, in their twisted logic, by speaking the magic incantation, you are suddenly the thing that you declare yourself to be. And then hence you have to pretend like everything works. This is why people like those people in the trans community, they identify as a 5-year-old girl, and everyone has to treat them as if they're a 5-year-old girl. That's the twisted logic that they're following, right? So obviously with a standard like that, you cannot. It falls apart when you actually apply it in real life. But that's the problem, is that they have arbitrary rules. If you ask them, like, if I identify as a black man, can I get, like, all the benefits of being a black man? And they're always outraged. They're like, oh, that's not the same thing. It's like, how is that not the same thing? Because in their twisted logic, they can pick and choose what counts and what doesn't. But because the furry community is quickly becoming, like, a integral part of the trans community, then yes, pretty soon bestiality is going to be considered totally fine, because again, if you identify as the animal that you want to be, then you are that animal. Hence, you're not actually committing bestiality in their view. It's basically moral leprosy. That's what it is.
It is.
I don't know if that answers the question, but
well, I don't know. Conqueror was the one who asked the question, but
yeah, Conqueror. Does that answer your question, Conqueror?
Well, yeah, sort of. Yeah, I think
I agree. It's dumb.
Identify as an animal, then the person that they're having sex with should be charged with bestiality.
In a logical and reasonable world, yes. Yeah. It's the same logic that says if a man who is 100% man has nothing's changed about him. If I can walk, like if I wanted to, if I was like some kind of a creep, I could right now, like tomorrow, I could go into a public pool in Calgary. I could literally walk into that public room, strip totally naked, and ogle the women and the little girls in that change room, and all I have to do is say I am a trans man or a trans woman, and I've now been able to commit the crime of voyeurism, and I can't be charged. That's basically the logic. So if that's the logic, then the same principle applies to anybody who identifies as right? You're absolutely right. It's ludicrous. It's absurdity, but people are too scared to say no. And so this continues. Yeah.
But speaking of things that continue, even though they're ludicrous and crazy, let's talk about
do the
HR crazy training videos.
You got the stinger?
I need to put the new stinger on for sure. I can't modify the size. It won't let me modify the size. I'm like trying to grab it to like make it bigger, and it's like no. So I'll just have to delete it and get a new one. That's fine. I can.
Okay, sounds good.
Anyway,
all right. So what are we doing? What are we screw checking?
So this is an HR video, which I have not seen. So this is a fresh react for me.
Oh, this is gonna be fresh. This is gonna be good.
So apparently, this video might be a little racist.
Yep. Starts at the 16-minute mark. Yeah.
All right. So you maybe it starts at the 16-minute mark.
No, sorry, not 16-minute. 16-second mark.
Yeah, I'm already there. If you want to do a little bit more of an opening, I'm just gonna quickly make a Twitter post.
Yeah. So really quick, I've seen Michael Knowles about this video. I've also seen, who else was it? A couple other commentators talked about this. Basically, what happens is, so there, if anybody's ever heard of the re-education camps that they have, like all over, like Jordan Peterson is one of the people that's going to have to be re-educated, and re-education is basically like mandatory. It's basically mandatory brainwashing. Okay, and in order to get this brainwashing completed, they create like these kind of like fancy videos to try to make this sound legit and to kind of like propagandize people into the cult. And so this is one of the videos that people uncovered that's shown at HR re-education camps or re-education training. And it's about microaggressions. See if you can figure out the problems with this video.
Okay. All right, let's watch.
Mosquito bites and their itch are one of nature's most annoying features. But if you're only bitten every once in a while...
No, where are you really from?
Cleveland?
Sure, it's annoying, but it's not that big a deal. The problem is that some people get bitten by mosquitoes a lot more than other people. I mean, a lot more. Whether it's on a date...
Oh, your English is so good.
Excuse me?
Going grocery shopping.
You know, everything happens for a reason.
I'm just buying apples.
Commuting to work.
So when are you going to have a baby?
Watching TV.
We have to keep the Redskins' name. It's part of our culture and history.
Okay. First off, we literally covered on Tuesday, briefly, didn't cover it very in depth, but there is a Native American group which the chief in which is honored on the Redskins.
Yes.
Actually, like they're suing the Washington Commanders to make them have to bring it back.
Yep, and guess who? That was not white people, by the way.
That wasn't.
That's Native Americans. Native Americans. All right, keep going.
Or just walking down the street with your partner.
I couldn't even tell you were gay.
Mosquitoes seem to pop up
Do you
everywhere.
know John? Give me shopping advice. I have share too.
And getting bit by mosquitoes every day.
Can I touch your hair?
Multiple times a day.
So pretty. Can
I touch it?
Can I please?
Is annoying. That makes you want to go ballistic on those mosquitoes, which seems like a huge overreaction to people who only get bit every once in a while.
It's just a mosquito bite. Who cares?
Wait, hold up. It seems like a huge overreaction. Like, of course, anybody who's watching this video automatically gets the response that, oh, the mosquitoes are just like white racist cis people because they're just so annoying in asking totally legitimate questions that the wokies get upset by. Like, if I went up to our friend Josh and I'd be like, Josh, like, where is your family from initially? He's not going to view that as racist. Because it's like, okay, like, I'm fairly certain he's from the Bahamas, I think.
Yeah.
But that's not a racist question. Because I'm like, I'm genuinely curious. It has nothing to do with any form of discrimination. Like, everything that they're addressing, they're not trying to be rude. They're literally just trying to be, okay, we want to learn more about you. Like, touching the hair, that's weird. I don't want people to generally touch my hair. For the most part, I had a guy.
It's the Jufro, man. Jufro.
The Jufro. I had a guy that used to be in my Bible study, and he would sit behind me, and he would he really liked the shampoo and conditioner that I used, and so he would rub his hand through my hair, and he's like, "Steven, you always have the softest hair," and I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "I don't know, I just felt like it." I'm like, "Whatever, it's not that big a deal."
Here, Yeah, you have to finish the video, and then we'll go over every
Just another
little part one at a time.
Of course, beyond just being annoying, some mosquitoes carry truly threatening diseases that can mess up your life for years.
Astrophysics? Maybe you should try less challenging, Major.
Ow, my dreams.
And other mosquitoes carry
Well,
strains
diseases.
that can even kill you.
He looked like he was up to trouble, okay? I felt threatened.
So next time you think someone's overreacting, just remember, some people experience mosquito bites all the time.
You're all so exotic. Wow.
And by mosquito bites, we mean microaggressions.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yikes.
Squash those microaggressions. Like the implications of this are insane,
Well,
right?
it's okay.
Insane.
First off, they are outright excusing violence
Violence
against
yes.
people who are committing microaggressions, which
Yes.
are usually done out of compassion, not ire or any form of malcontent.
Yes.
Like
The
this
idea
is
is like
shocking.
you're excusing. Okay, so first of all, you're encouraging people to be incredibly easily offended. First of all, you're actually creating basically emotional hemorrhagics that are offended by every little thing, that are encouraged to see every little thing as a horrible offense, and you should be like outraged. How dare you say such horrible things? But secondly, if you have no self-awareness, you should know historically, anytime any group is treated as dehumanized, they're always compared to some animal that people wanted, eliminate. The Jews, they called the Jews disease-ridden, like vermin. They basically compared them to rats. Have you ever seen the opening scene of Inglourious Bastards? That scene, the Jew hunter, like the famous Jew hunter, he compares the Jews to rats, and he's perfectly, completely okay with that. He's like, oh no, this is just descriptive. This is super accurate and all that. Basically, dehumanize human beings by turning them into rats. In the famous the Rwandan genocide that happened, I forget the exact date, but that genocide, I remember watching a documentary on it. They basically called the one group that was being targeted for ethnic cleansing. They called them cockroaches. They basically said oh, they're no better than cockroaches. If you remember slavery during the entire chattel slavery of the United States, they compared the slaves to basically no more than animals. They called them beasts. They actually compared them to basically cows or cattle, right? And you can go through all of history, all of the massive genocides, all of the massive they require dehumanization. They're dehumanizing human beings, saying oh, these people are like mosquitoes. Oh, so they basically anything you do to them is totally fair game. So let's go through some of the things that they basically claimed are horrible. How dare you do such horrible things? Your English is so good.
Yep. Compliment.
By the way, when I go to Mexico, my Spanish is a little bit rusty.
Yep.
I'm not as
white. They'll still compliment you.
They'll be like, "Wow, your Spanish is so good." Oh, that stinking Mexican and that microaggression. You see, you're encouraging people to legitimately be intentionally offended.
Yeah.
They're basically yes, you're encouraging bad behavior and you're demonizing well-meaning behavior. People are your English is so good. Well, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad I'm. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's another one?
Especially if you're spending the time to learn a language.
Yikes. Yeah. Okay. Look at the next one. If I don't know if you want to go back to the video.
Sure.
Everything happens for a reason. Is that a horrible thing to say?
Yeah,
maybe it's a little bit
It can be a little
insensitive.
Yeah, it can be a little insensitive, but this is it's not you deserve this. It's
you deserve
maybe there's something. It's very much akin to the whole thing with the curriculum in Florida. It was some of the slaves used skills later on in life that they learned in slavery. It wasn't a good thing that they were enslaved, but sometimes it did cause them benefit later on in life.
Describing a historical fact is now racist.
Yep. And
not being like racist. Yeah.
There are people I look at who is it? What's his name? I think his name is Nick Vujicic. Have you ever heard of him?
Sounds familiar.
Okay. You've probably I'll show you a picture of him. You've probably seen it. So
he was at Center Street Church once. He's the guy with no arms and legs.
Oh yeah.
He's
this
guy.
Famous. He's world famous. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, it was actually kind of cool because when he came to Calgary, my mom was like his shuttle. So she got to know him pretty well. But he's a really cool inspirational speaker. And like hearing his story is like absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's incredibly
like what happened to him and how he's like, you know what? Like I don't have to live my life like it's the end of the world. I can choose to take the gifts that I've been given and I'm going to live my life to my best and I'm going to glorify God through all of it because every moment is a blessing. And I'm like, dude, bam, mad respect. Because like I remember I was at like even in 2016, I was at this low point in my life. Like I was basically drowning in debt and I didn't have a job and like I didn't know how we were going to like have ends meet. And I'm talking with my buddy and he's like, dude, like things are going really badly for you right now. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, despite all of this, despite everything that's going on, I am richly blessed because I have a wife who loves me, a child who's healthy, and a God who cares for me.
Yeah, and that's encouraging good behavior. It's encouraging people to be resilient, to be like emotionally mature in the point that you can take like even like well-meaning like comments and you don't get easily offended, right? I love Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager said in one of his fireside chats, he said that the reason that he doesn't like leftism, one of the main reasons, is because religions, their goal is to make good people, whereas leftism, their goal is to make bad people and to reward and encourage people to be bad people. What are you doing with a HR video like this? Is you are basically telling people, you know what, you're right to be offended. You know that thing that person said that you thought like oh that was kind of like dumb or something like that. No, it was a microaggression. Like they did you a horrible wrong. You should be mad. You should be outraged. You should tell them off next time you see them because these people are horrible. Like that's what they're doing. They're encouraging people to basically be horrible people, and they're incentivizing it and making it okay to mistreat one group of people and saying like, oh, it's okay to mistreat these people because they're horrible people anyways, right? Like that's the message that they're saying. And then like like here, like take the what was that lady with the flamethrower?
Oh, right at the end.
This is how completely and totally a complete lack of self-awareness.
Like capture there, which seems like a huge overreaction.
The way that you're portraying it, it's a huge
huge overreaction because that is literally killing people.
Even if you're talking about mosquitoes, even if you wanted to like keep the analogy alive and just say like, oh, this is about mosquitoes. I'm like, even that is even an insane. If my friends and I were outside in the backyard and we like had like a bunch of mosquitoes like annoying us, and my buddy took out a flamethrower to deal with them, I'm like, that would be an overreaction. That would be a massive one because you can hurt a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And they're saying that you basically lashing out at like little tiny things is like oh, that's you're like he's like, well, that's understandable because all these little things like are basically like so much. Did you see that It reminds me of that scene from the Hulk, the She-Hulk TV show that was like got famous. Do you know that scene where like the Hulk is basically trying to say like, have you ever you have a problem with being angry?
Oh.
And she's like, she goes on this like tirade about how like, well, I had to deal with
I have to do this
and
all
I had
the
to
time.
all the time. And it's like, like I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I had to do it infinitely more than you. Like she just basically what she was
Goes
saying.
on this woke tirade, and it was just so so stupid.
She was basically saying, I have a right to be an insufferable person and an incredibly horrible human being because I'm offended by everything. And my being offended is totally justifiable. And what do you get as a result of that? You get the people on the streets during the march, the million march for children, that are basically violent, that have no problem like being vile and malicious and vindictive people on the street, and they feel that they're just killing mosquitoes because their behavior is justified in their view because they're microaggressed, and then they're okay with like mistreating and absolutely being horrible towards these people because they're just mosquitoes. They don't deserve to live because they're horrible and they're doing these terrible things and all that. It's incredible if it wasn't so malicious, right? Like like poke forward to the last two here, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one right after the lady with the flamethrower, you have that they can mess up. They can spread.
Yep.
They can spread diseases.
Oh no! Okay, we're talking about the wrong thing.
Go to that part. They can mess up. Okay, some of them are like diseases. They can mess up your life for years. Okay, they compare the mosquitoes. By the way, these are like a stand-in for like white supremacy, or like white people.
Yeah.
Like they spread diseases. Okay, so they can mess up your life for years. Or the part right after that where they can even kill people. These people are dangerous because they're like disease-ridden, and they can kill you.
Well, because they're all the mosquitoes are all the conservatives. That's just a generalization that they're making. It's just the mosquito is all conservatives.
You sure?
Like the mosquito. It looked like he was up to trouble. It's like, well, okay, but they don't like cops don't give that excuse. Oh, it looks like he was up to trouble. No, they say, and they usually have body cam. It's like, oh, look, this person, like, yes, it looked like, well, he was reaching for a pretend gun. But the cop had no way of knowing it. Like, I remember there was a guy that gave that to me as like this 100% excuse as to why this killing was unjustified. And I looked at it and I'm like, this kid was a moron. He's like, I got a gun. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. Don't come closer. I'm going to shoot you. And the cop's like, please don't do it. Like, just like put the gun down. Don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, submit to this. And his kid's like, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to kill you. Like, don't come any closer. And then he rips his hand back and he, like, whips it out. And it's a finger pistol. And the cop shoots him. And they're like, oh, it's just a finger pistol. It's like, well, he had no way of knowing that. And the kid was belligerent. It's like, we have raised a society where it's like, oh, yeah, like, nope, cops are the enemy. I should pretend to shoot them. We have such a messed up society if this is the stuff which is promoted and encouraged. Okay.
This is
That's
dehumanizing. Like, this is dehumanizing 101. Like, I hate the idea of like when you're trying to compare people to like mosquitoes. And like the worst part is that thing at the very end. That very last thing that they do is they have all these like racial minorities or like racial people, and they all smush the mosquito. Boy, is that if that isn't chilling.
Yeah.
But it's totally legit because white people like conservatives, like they're doing this horrible harm. Yeah, like you do know like the reason why they use microaggressions and all that is so they can justify violence.
Yep.
That's the reason. Because if they could say like your words are violence, then they can punch you.
Yep.
Because they're not punching, they're not initiating violence. They're responding to your verbal violence.
They're responding to your hate. And hate basically like that one professor said in Michael Knowles' speech is violence. Make Canada great again. Well, we've made Alberta great again. I will say that Smith is a far better leader than Kenny was, and that Smith is, as far as I'm concerned, Smith is the best premier that we've had since.
Smith is basically what we always hoped Kenny would be.
Kenny would be, yes.
Yeah, we had high hopes for Kenny, but he ended up becoming.
She's not perfect. Like, I wish she was more conservative. I wish she actually had, like, really strong, steadfast principles. But she is a libertarian, which is far better than the authoritarians which we had under the Kenny government.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely.
So I'll take that.
Yeah, YG Mayhem asked if, do you know anything about the provincial pension plan, and do you agree with it?
I don't know a ton about the provincial pension plan.
Yeah. I'm the same.
I know that, like, there have been some articles released where it's like on the right, they're like, Alberta contributes way more to the pension plan than all the other provinces. Like, there was some assessment that were basically like 50% of the current Canadian pension plan was like attributable to Albertan contributions. I would probably not go that. I probably wouldn't say 50%, but I would probably say, like, I would assume at least 30% is Albertan contributions, considering the fact that Alberta has paid more. I think at this point it's more than $250 billion into equalization. We received absolutely nothing.
Yeah, my take on it is that right now, I do not believe in any way that the Canada pension plan is going to give me any form of retirement at all. Like, it's just the way it works right now is that there's a fundamental flaw in the system. There's not going to be enough money for people like me or people like Steven when we get to retirement age. And so what we're going to get when we reach that age is going to be pennies. It's going to be tiny amount. It's not going to be anywhere near enough to help you live. Okay, so I've already assumed as a Canadian, the Canada pension plan is not a retirement plan. It's not gonna help you. It's not
gonna really support you in the long term.
You're contributing to basically an empty pot. Okay, so if the Alberta pension plan, if that helps to kind of change that and make it a little bit more viable,
and actually
I'd be all for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, like Danielle Smith is about more, like, her campaign promise: more Alberta, less Ottawa, and I am completely 100% in favor of that, especially
she's
considering
populist.
How much Ottawa hates us right now.
Yeah.
So I'll take Danielle Smith. PPC party only, unfortunately the PPC party in Canada, like, I wish they had more support. I do. I wish that they had as much support as the Conservatives, but this is Canada.
The way I look at it,
I consciously object to a lot of the members in the Conservative Party, just like the Conservative Party in my riding. I will not vote for her. I won't vote for Michelle Rempel because she's a leftist.
She's a really sold out leftist.
Yeah.
My take on the PPC is that I think the PPC is a great idea, and I think I'm more invested in the long term success of the PPC than the short term. In the short term, I think the last election, the PPC got so much of the kind of the spillover vote, like all of the Conservatives that were really pissed off at Erin O'Toole. Ended up voting for the PPC, and they got a lot of votes. I think that's great. That means that they're going to get more money from Elections Canada. That means that they're more likely to get a possible seat on the debates, and they're going to be able to expand their operations to be able to run more candidates more all over Canada. My hope is that they can get at least 1 or 2 seats sometime in the next election or two. That's my hope. But in the short term, I think we need to remember that we have to basically get the Conservative majority in. If you are in a riding in particularly Alberta, or if you're in a riding in Alberta or in Saskatchewan or Manitoba, that's considered a safe riding, where you're guaranteed to have your Conservative Party your candidate win. I would actually recommend vote for PPC because the numbers will help the party.
Yeah,
if you're in
this is part of why I've always kind of encouraged and advocated for the idea of ranked ballots. If we had ranked ballots, you would see from having zero MPs in the parliament, you would have, because right now, exactly what Conqueror was saying, right now, a vote for the CPC for a lot of people who are true social conservatives is an anti-lib vote. That's exactly how my parents vote, because Calgary Northeast is a stronghold of the Liberals, and so they have to vote as an anti-lib vote. Whereas for me, I vote for the PBC in my riding because I can't consciously support the CPC in my riding, even though it is one of the safest ridings in the country.
Sure.
And so I would like a ranked choice ballot because I would like a lot more to have a viewpoint and an analysis of how many people put the PPC as their number one vote and would only vote the CPC as an anti-lib vote. I would love to see those numbers.
Yeah,
but for right now, we're just not going to see it.
Okay, one last thing. I'll end on this. By the way, Maxime Bernier is like literally my dream of like the best potential prime minister. I'll give you a little story of he actually touched my own family in a very specific way, in a very special way. So Maxime Bernier, a couple of years ago, my mother and my family were in the hospital. My dad was in ICU, and he was like touch and go. He was like he was like that close from like literally dying. And the hospital that my dad, the ICU that he was in, they basically pulled one of the most insanely like ever. They basically decided, we're going to give your husband this treatment because we want to like see if he's bleeding. But my mom knew the medicine that you want to give him in order to treat this. We know his medical history. It will cause bleeding because it's done it before. We have doctors that have seen it. Like, if you do this, he's going to bleed and internal bleed, and then you may actually end up killing him. The doctor was like, I don't care. I'm the doctor. We're like, you have to sign this document, or we're going to basically discharge your husband. He's on ICU. He's barely holding on. The ICU is literally keeping him alive. Yep. And the doctor basically told my mom, you sign this, or we're going to get him out of the ICU, and you can go take care of him. And basically, they were basically saying, sign this, or we're going to kill your husband.
Yeah.
It was insane. My mom was distraught. She didn't know what to do. And then Maxime Bernier, on an unrelated matter, he went to meet with my mom for something else for political Mexican community. Mm-hmm. He met her at the hospital. And then when she told him what had happened with this hospital, Maxime's a lawyer. He basically like looked at the situation, and he basically told my mom, like, Laura, what they're doing is illegal. They cannot do that. So next time you have this issue with this doctor, you need to go to administration. You talk to the administration at the hospital, threaten to sue them because they legally cannot do this. And you basically stand your ground hard. And she did that. Next time they tried to pull that mess on her, and they ended up basically backtracking and backing off. And from that point on, my mom was basically always consulted on everything regarding my dad. That's part of the reason why my dad survived that stint in the ICU, because Maxime Bernier cared enough to actually help a woman, a widow, a woman whose husband was basically being held hostage in the hospital. I have like an enormous amount of respect for that guy. Oh, yeah. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go out of his way for something like that, but he did. So I really do like Maxime. Maxime is amazing.
Yeah, he's really.
And whether or not he gets to be like the leader of a major party, I still think he's a solid human being.
Yeah, very solid candidate, very solid leader. All right, let's move on away from all the final two to the weekly exposure. So, from Not the Bee, this trans student beat the snot out of multiple girls in an Oregon middle school. Tough one to watch, but I'm going to show it because this is coming to a scroll near you. Warning, violence. No kidding.
Yeah, so and they even put like the warning over the video.
Happened at Hazelbrook Middle School in the Tigard-Tualatin School District in Oregon. What you're seeing is a large boy who identifies a girl assaulting a young girl from behind. Sex-based violence. We don't know what motivated it. But here we go. Be ready.
I'm almost guess. And of course, she gets up, disoriented, doesn't even know what to happen.
Yeah, so that's one.
Yeah, they don't even show the whole thing. They show like
because the initial incident was that the trans
went up behind,
like
went
grabbed
behind,
the backpack
grabbed
and
them,
threw them,
and yeah, and launched them backwards. By the way,
I think
anybody who throws somebody backwards,
this is just another angle.
different angle.
Yep. And then this is another
yeah.
incident. Same student. Same student.
Try the fuck again.
Just snacks.
And just exceptionally violent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my goodness, that's crazy.
And that's a girl who's tried to stand up for that other girl.
Yep.
But of course, like, she's no match. She's no match for like biological male.
Well, like, and unfortunately, like Loudoun County, it's probably going to hide the fact that this is occurring. Just like Loudoun County, they hid the fact that a gender-fluid student raped a female student in the bathroom, then transferred him instead of reporting it, where he went and raped another student. Turns out the encouraging mental delusions in boys causes them to become horrible little monsters who wear dresses but still speak with their fists.
By the way, remember that this is directly related to that video we just saw, where people like this, people like in these violent, and let's not mince words. These are people in violent groups. They're in a violent cult. If you're part of Antifa, there's a reason why Antifa is violent, because they're all basically brainwashed to believe that they're fighting they dehumanize their enemies. They're told that all of their grievances and all their anger, and they basically get them like riled up. This person, this trans child, is basically being told, anybody who doesn't affirm you and anybody who disagrees or even just shows you anything other than like unwavering support is a horrible human being, and they deserve the worst. And so that's the mindset that leads to basically believing that I can do this to anybody because, like they slighted me in the most basic way, and they believe that they're the slightest, it's cannot stand, and so they feel like they have to almost teach these because they're taught homophobes and transphobes. It's basically dehumanizing language, right? These people are they're like animals. And so this boy is basically given a free pass and told that you can totally destroy this young girl and you're fine. Yeah, any guesses on what the consequences for this person is going to be?
My guess is the same thing that's happened in Loudoun County. There'll be us transferring to another school district, and it'll be like maybe some small community service. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big maybe, a big if.
By the way, can you actually show the video from Amy E. Salsa? I think she's right above Riley Gaines. Or is she below?
This one?
That one, yeah.
The first
one?
Wait.
Wait.
That's the first video.
Yeah. Sorry. I just noticed that Amy the Salsa. Actually, the link. She has a couple of videos that show other attacks. By the way, this is just one example. This is happening. No, the actual tweet. Go to the actual tweet that she posted about that attack, and then scroll down. And then, there's more. Another boy beat up student claiming to be trans. All these
Texas
patterns, sex-based violence. Texas high school. This is one in
Riverside, California.
Yep. So, by the way, these are not isolated incidents.
My goodness.
Yeah, this is happening everywhere. It's the same idea of people say oh, there's very few boys competing for women's and female sports. Those are only the recorded and published ones. But the boys getting into women's sports is happening all over the country, everywhere, and it just isn't big enough yet for people to know. And by the way, I was a victim of bullying when I was in elementary school, and this is just regular bullying, and even then, like the schools just never did anything about bullying. Bullying's already like out of control enough, and then you're adding the added element of, by the way, we're gonna add a basically a group of people that is sacred, that basically can get away with whatever they want, and they'll never face any justice or any repercussions unless, and this is the big unless it's undeniable and it can't be hidden. That's the only time that they'll actually face anything even remotely resembling like actual consequences. Like the Loudoun County, that boy actually faced consequences because they couldn't hide it. That's the only reason they had no choice. They had to do something about it. But when they can hide them, they will. That's why video is so important. Thank goodness this person took a video. So yeah, this is the exposure of the week. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's
psycho stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes the things that we have, like, I remember. Okay, so doing a little bit of history, like we would go before we did the exposure of the week. We were doing douche of the week, and yes like we agree that was probably too much focused on mocking, but we cannot ignore, we cannot deny that there is evil in the world. We cannot say that this evil does not exist because it is easy for us and we can avoid criticism. This is why the modern church is so weak, because the modern churches choose, instead of calling out evil and taking a stand against it, churches in modern society have chosen to say, it's not our problem. Like, they're not the problem. Like, we're the problem. It's because we as Christians aren't good enough. It's like, well,
we're being too mean. We need to be less mean.
And so if we are less mean, if we just stay silent, then this stuff won't happen. No, if we stay silent on exposing evil, then this stuff will happen all the more. So we need to be loud, and we need to be saying, this is where the line is drawn, and in fact, we should be going 10 steps back. I am so glad for all these places that have said, no, we're going to stop this. Like in Canada, they took the very tiny, small step of saying that children need to be informed, and parents need to be informed if children start identifying as the opposite gender, as another gender at school. And thankfully, in many places around the United States, from Idaho to Montana to Florida to Iowa, they have started to ban chemical and surgical transitioning. And that is a very, very good thing. And I hope that this spreads across the country, because we cannot let children be the guinea pigs for this sort of crazy radicalism. Because when children are the guinea pigs, then when they don't realize what is wrong with them, all they do is lash out on those around them. They're not going to properly address this and say, no, this is because I haven't accepted reality, and because I'm unable to accept reality, it drives me crazy. And I do not have an outlet for this because everybody around me is telling me, oh, it's wonderful. All this is wonderful, and even though you're depressed and you are full of anxiety and you have all these mental illnesses, but it's wonderful because you're embodying the new woke movements. How horrifying!
By the way, just for a good example, because you're talking about the big statement is, I just put something on the chat, Stephen. Maybe you can pull it up.
Yeah,
because I think this is what we want pastors to be. This is what pastors should be, but we're not having enough of them. Okay. The old state, I always like the statement. The only thing that we need for evil to thrive is for good men to do nothing.
Yeah.
This is an example. This was big. This was always big. You know what this one is, right, Stephen?
I think I've seen a bit of it. What's the timestamp?
This is
again?
a pastor. Book. Hold on. I don't know how long this is. 5. I think. Yeah, just play the beginning. Play the beginning.
It's perfectly normal. I'll read some of this for you. It says, after a bit, a person's it becomes moist and slippery, and the clitoris becomes hard. After a bit, a person's becomes erect, stiff, and larger. Sometimes a bit of clear fluid that may contain a few sperm comes out of the tip of the penis and makes it wet.
Can we, sir, I'm sorry.
Was it something I said? If you don't want to hear it in a school board meeting, why should children be able to check it out of the school system? We have perverts that are perverting our kids. And you all sit back smug in your chairs, but you don't want me to read it. Why? Does it bother you? Yes or no? You can't answer that question. You want to know why? Because politically speaking, you can't say that it's wrong. And you don't want me to read the filth because it exposes the truth. How dare you tell me to stop reading it? If you don't want to hear it, why should the children have to see it?
Pastor, your time is up. Thank you.
That makes two of us.
This is John Matarazzo with Career.
Dang.
Yeah, that was.
You've never seen that one.
Yeah, that one. That was a good one. Oh, and I didn't even have
my favorite one. That's my favorite one by far.
So people could hear that. There was another. I'll see if I can find. I'll pull it up a while back on. I think I had it on my Twitter. There was actually a really good, because that's something that we can be doing in public.
Yeah, that's
now,
a pastor.
There was a great line. There was actually a sermon that Mark Driscoll did, where he addressed all this, and I'm like, dang, this is good.
That guy did well.
Yeah, and so I'll scroll down. I'll find it in just a minute here.
Find it. Yeah. So the here's the thing. When Stephen and I went to a ton of the freedom rallies here in Calgary, lots of major protests that happened every week. They were going out. They were protesting the COVID restrictions. They did all this kind of stuff. Okay. Mark did fall, but he's kind of redeemed himself a lot.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at his whole story to see that. Yeah, he's definitely. I believe he's made a concerted effort. Anyways, now the big thing is that all throughout those COVID protests, all throughout the upheavals and all that kind of stuff, one thing that people always mentioned, Christians and non-Christians alike, is that where are the pastors? Where are the Christian leaders that are not standing up for the people, that are not standing up for the innocent, that are not standing up for the people who are being hurt, oppressed, and beaten down by a out-of-control government who is lying to people and is hurting people? Where were all the Christian leaders? They were all silent. They were all wallflowers. They basically all cowered in fear and decided not to do anything. And this is exactly why we say the strongest people in any of these movements pushing back against evil should be the pastors. And what we often get, and I've heard this from way too many pastors, is we're focusing on preaching the gospel. I'm like, congratulations, by basically refusing to say anything about the evil of this world, by refusing to call out sin, and by basically being wallflowers, you've robbed the gospel of its power, and you're basically just selling a hollowed out husk of a gospel, because you're basically saying the gospel is all about it's all about me, and it's not about actually helping the orphans, the widows, the stranger, and those who are being absolutely devastated by an out of control, power hungry, and immoral government that doesn't care about them. It's crazy. These are the leaders. They should be the ones that are leading us, but unfortunately, even recently with the Million March for Kids that happened last Wednesday or last week, the Muslims were the ones leading, not the Christians, and that's a terrible indictment to give on the church. So you find it, Stephen?
No, I don't know what.
Maybe you're not going to find it.
Maybe not.
We're just gonna have to keep moving, man. Just gonna have to keep moving.
Yeah, we'll just have to keep moving. I'll take a look later and see if I can link it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Concord, yes, the Million Man March was organized by the Muslim community, was not organized by the church. It had some pastors involved, but
Pastor Arthur was there, of course.
Yep, Pastor Arthur was there, Derek was there, and that was about it.
There's quite a few. Pastor Hildebrand.
Hildebrand, as far as Calgary, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, there's pastors across the country that were involved. So
Yes.
yeah, but yeah, no major leaders here in Calgary,
No.
the church leaders.
Well,
Even
like,
Pastor
it was
Tim.
sort of funny because I met somebody that I recognized from a while ago from Center Street.
Yeah.
At the park yesterday with the kids. And she's like, oh, like me and my husband go to Center Street. And we're like, well, we stopped going to Center Street. And she's like, why? And like Steph was kind of having a little bit of a difficult time explaining why. And Steph was like, oh, like we had some problem with the leadership because they like blocked us on Facebook. And she's like, oh, that's weird. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And I'm like,
what do you say?
I'm like, I'm just gonna let you girls have your chat. Because I was just like, nope, Center Street fell hard. Because Center Street refused to condemn evil, and Center Street was open. Center Street refused to say that, yes, we do not want. We don't want to bow to the world. We want to say, no, our king is Jesus, and that's it. And if people want to come to church, then they come to church. Because the risk of coming, this was like the exact same time as the Afghanistan pullout. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Because they were restricting church attendance. And they're like, no, nobody can come to church. Because it's too dangerous. And I'm like, okay, so it's okay for Afghanistan churches who are gathering in the midst of the Taliban taking over, and they're knocking on the doors of churches and saying,
legitimate danger.
Yeah, legitimate danger. And instead, they're like, nope, we don't want to get fines. We don't want to get challenges. We don't want to get critique. As Conquer Worm said, they bowed to the altar of government and medical science. And not even medical science, it was pseudoscience over the word of God.
Yeah. And what's worse is it's not just that they were cowering to government like overreach. Like, the Chinese churches are like heroes. Like they're staying open even though the government is going hard after them. Okay, even at like the threat of like imprisonment and death and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's not just the fact that some of these churches are afraid. It's also that they're justifying their cowardice. And that was, for me, that was the thing that basically made me like, I'm done with Pastor Henry. I used to have an actual world of respect for the man.
Oh, yeah.
But when he had that one sermon after the whole storm had passed, all he had to do was like, we made some mistakes. We're sorry. We're going to try to do better in the future. No. He doubled down. He basically said, everything we did was perfectly and totally like biblical. We'd do it again in a heartbeat if we had the chance. And all of you should basically follow our lead. I'm like, done. You basically learned nothing. If the pandemic, if they pulled back this entire thing all over again, you would basically be right in the front of the line, telling all your people basically selling all your sheep to the wolves. So yeah, I basically lost all respect for Center Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's not being unkind. It's just being like you have failed. You failed in your mission, and you're going to lose your place that God is giving you. So yeah, it's really terrible. Do you want to go to the last one story? The last story?
Yep.
So weekly highlight.
Weekly highlight. So this is just funny. We briefly covered this last week. Senate reinstates formal dress code after Fetterman rule disaster. He unanimously passed a resolution to formalize business attire as the dress code while on the floor of the chamber. So late Wednesday, the U.S. Senate unanimously passed a resolution to formalize business attire as the dress code while on the floor of the chamber in a rebuke of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who relaxed dress requirements last week to enable John Fetterman to continue to wear hooded sweatshirts and shorts. So Schumer's September 17th decision led to bipartisan backlash in the chamber, as well as social media. Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Mitt Romney sponsored the bipartisan bill. It's no longer enforcing a dress code for senators to appease Fetterman. Well, no, the Senate no longer enforcing a dress code to appease Fetterman as a disgraceful dress code is one of society's standards that set etiquette and disrespect for institutions. Stop blowing the bar. New rules specify a jacket, tie, and pants for men, but don't specify a tie for female members of the chamber. So, Monica Corelli, the Senate will no longer enforce this dress code because John Fetterman is a revolting slob. Fetterman!
Yep. Fetterman!
And this was his reaction.
Clarifying dress code to floor.
So apparently, clarifying the dress code on the floor was adopted by unanimous consent. And he's kind of just like,
whatever.
It's like, okay, well, you should be removed from the Senate. You're a slob. So it's good news, but it's kind of just like whatever. Anyway, so of course
I think it's nice that they didn't get away with it.
Yeah, it is nice that they didn't go away with it. So
yeah,
we're kind of finishing off this open mic night. If there's anything that our guests want to talk about, they can highlight it in either, of course, on the Discord chat, or they can highlight it on the Discord. I mean, on the Twitch. So
a little twitchy.
Yeah, a little twitchy. While I continue to search.
Oh, for that video,
I will find it. I will find it.
Yeah, he's on a mission. He will not be stopped. He will not be denied. He's going to make this work. Yeah, so a lot of the stories today, I think the best way I can like summarize the stories from like the Philadelphia people to the HR video, the trans students like beating up people, is that leftism is basically toxic. It's like cancer for society. It is, because what it does is it encourages bad people to basically be as bad as they can, and it discourages good people from intervening or from engaging in noble behavior. So like, instead of like people like standing up and saying like, no, we're not going to let innocent people suffer, they're basically innocent people are punished, right? And the people who are like the bullies, the criminals, the immoral, like people, they're basically incentivized to create more and more dangerous, antisocial behavior. So this is all in the big picture. I would say this is a result of the divine judgment on a religious level. Divine judgment comes when society is complete God's ways, that basically every man does what is right in his own eyes, when the poor are being mistreated, when the poor are being abused, when like immorality like prevails and people basically take advantage and and basically devolve into all sorts of like immoral behavior, sexual immorality. Lying is basically considered normal, all this kind of stuff, right? Yeah, like Conqueror says, God will not be mocked for long. It's like, do not be deceived, God will not be mocked. A man, man will reap what they sow, right? So in a spiritual analysis, biblically speaking, this is the kind of this is what we would expect of a society that has basically forgotten God, a society that has tossed Christian values and morals out of the window. In a Christian society or a Christian-based society, you would have people that you would reward good behavior. So good behavior would be things like telling the truth, being honest, following the law and being open to both your boss, to the government, and to a society. Loving your neighbor, right? Caring for the poor. All of these things would be part of a society. And those kind of things, whether or not you're a Christian nation, those are the kind of things that lead to prosperity and lead to good things. When we basically turn a society into an immoral, like a moral graveyard, then like when people lie, like when you encourage lying, you're basically saying that you're creating a society where nobody trusts each other, where people cannot. They're always scared of like somebody's going to lie to them, cheat, and you're incentivizing people to basically abuse each other by essentially betraying people's trust and hurting people. Okay, that's why lying destroys a society. When you incentivize sexual immorality of any kind of sex goes, what you're doing is you are basically destroying the family unit, because you're creating a whole bunch of children born out of wedlock that basically will grow up to become broken and damaged children because they don't have the sanctuary that is the family. You're creating a whole bunch of broken people who basically use others in order to deal with their own internal struggles, and that means that you're basically creating a generations and generations of broken people who are going to create broken society, broken families. It just all develops. There's a reason why these things work and why they make for a strong society. It's the broken flowers principle that Dennis Prager talked about. If you pick flowers, they don't die right away. They basically they still look nice. They still look like they still look beautiful. And you put them in water, they'll last for a while. But eventually those flowers will die and die because they're no longer in the soil. It takes time for them to basically die after you pluck them because they're no longer getting the nutrients. If you remove a society from its Christian roots and morals and values, it will still appear on the surface like the society is still operating perfectly fine. Nothing's changed. But give it like one generation or two generations, and all of the effects of the actions that you took early on of removing it from this Christian foundations will basically come to roost, and you'll create a society like we have today. This is why, if you look in Parliament and you look in the United States Congress, this is why people hate each other. They can't talk to each other anymore because these are all the consequences of creating a society that is antisocial, where everyone's out for themselves, where people nobody cares about their neighbor, nobody cares about the poor, nobody cares about the weak. Everyone's trying to hurt each other, and everyone's demonizing each other. We're just getting a society that's falling apart. So, yeah. Did you find your thing, Stephen?
Nope. I couldn't find the post.
You're just not gonna find it.
I was just like, I'm slowly scrolling through, and I'm like, come on, find it. But I don't think I'm gonna find it, unfortunately.
Interesting. So one comment on Veld. Basically, like, yes. So I was speaking on a spiritual analysis. So on a cultural, a social, political analysis, this is a cultural takeover. It's basically a slower version of the Maoist cultural revolution that took place in communist China. And if you actually study this stuff, like I always recommend James Lindsay. He's really good at explaining it. All of the tactics, all of the strategies, all of the things that they in the Chinese Cultural Revolution that took over China, turned it into a communist state, are being employed here in North America. We have everything. We have struggle sessions. Struggle session. By the way, cancel culture is just a modern euphemism for struggle sessions. It's basically psychological torture in order to silence dissidents and to turn the people on the fence into like compliant citizens. Right? That's what cancel culture is struggle session. They employ the cultural control, like censorship and restriction of language, because they have to silence anybody who will bring people out of the cult, like like brainwashing, and they have to disincentivize anybody who might oppose the regime. That's how you consolidate power. All of these things are being done. They're obvious to anybody who studies this in any real in any real depth. Yeah, it is there. So this is a cultural revolution, and like I always say, like the problem is there's a saying that you don't appease alligators, or you don't appease crocodiles. I think it is. Mm-hmm. Basically, like the idea that you can end this by being nice to the people who are basically trying to hurt you it's foolish. It's like you're trying to have a conversation with somebody who's punching you in your face. That's what's going on right now. When we're trying to protest, we're trying to do peaceful protests against people that are basically trying to use violence and are trying to use struggle session tactics to try to destroy people and destroy their lives. These people are not they're not interested in talking. To them, power is the only language that they speak, which is why they never talk to you. But they're always happy to use violence and to weaponize the legal system against you. We're not in a debate. We are in a fight. It's a fight of attrition. That's basically what it is. It's a fight of attrition. And so for people who actually understand what's going on, the best thing that you can do to fight in this culture war and this cultural takeover is, first of all, you have to tell other people. You have to basically help those in your world, in your life, see what's going on and realize that they're not on a broken ship. They're on a sinking ship, and we're basically on the ship with people who are trying to intentionally sink and burn this ship down. Yep. So basically, it's a battle for survival, not a battle for Not a battle with ideas, it's a battle with survival.
Not yet.
And so we have to change our tactics.
Okay.
Steven, you got some stuff?
No, I was just kind of doing a finishing out routine. So that's probably where we're going to end. Thank you for people who joined us on the live stream in the open mic, and of course in the chat on Twitch. So if you want to check out our other video platforms, you can check us out on YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble. And of course, you can check us out on our text platforms at theshrewddudes.com and on Twitter, Gitter, and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Danny.
Yeah. What's up?
You're still a Go for Sunday?
Tell me again what we're doing.
3 to 4 p.m. Life Chain.
All right.
Mm-hmm. I forgot too, and I was like, "Oh no!"
I think I'll let me talk to my mom. My mom told me about some event that I'm doing, but I'll tell her that I wanted to do live chain.
Yeah.
I'll tell her that I'm probably not going to be able to do it.
You're what?
No. I'll tell. She invited me to some conference.
Okay.
But it's totally optional, so I'm going to tell her that I'm not.
Yeah, and so I'm going to try and bring our friend Thomas.
Nice.
Because Thomas wanted to check out D&D in the evening. And I was like,
nice.
Well, you could join us earlier in the day, and we could go to Life Chain, and then we could do other stuff.
Yeah. I'm also going to bring my new toy. My new fancy little toy.
Oh, the camera.
That's right. It's my new...
intriguing.
Yeah. It's got video, too, so I'm going to be able to take videos. And the best part about this is that it's got a ridiculously good zoom. So I'll be able to take like videos and pictures of people who are far away without having to getting close, which will be nice.
Yep. So, yeah, it should be cool. I
think it'll be good.
Yes. So we'll figure that out. So if you want to check us, if you want to join us at Life Chain, I put the link on my Twitter page. You could also find it just by Googling Life Chain Canada locations. And the location for Calgary is along the Cloud Trail between Southland Drive and Heritage. It's basically between that Walmart and Heritage Drive into the north. And you basically just stand there with some signs and you can pray. You can have discussions with people. Probably not super encouraged to yell at passerby as they give you fingers. But, it happens sometimes. And sometimes there are crazy fights that happen in front of Scotiabanks. But those are all things that we might see on Sunday. So we hope to see people out there. And we'll see what happens. So until that happens, Danny, sign us out.
Hey, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We're the Shrewd. I'd like to remind you, why be rude when you can be shrewd instead? We'll see you guys again on Tuesday for our Tuesday News Day. And we hope you have a great weekend. We'll definitely take pictures and videos of the Life Chain of this weekend, and we'll try to post them by next week. So definitely look out for those. Those are always good.
Yeah,
because we do interviews and live.
Fun.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everybody. God bless.